A new reality is transforming the job market. The race for work now includes machines, and Gen Z is feeling the pressure. The first jobs of a career are shifting. Entry-level roles are increasingly automated into lines of code, and the impact is impossible to ignore. Tasks once handled by graduates are being taken over by artificial intelligence. As companies pour billions into AI infrastructure rather than new hires, experts warn of a looming job apocalypse, a challenge that could redefine the nature of work. Here's our report.
It was once a simple story. You studied hard, you landed that first job, and if you worked your way up, the corner office was yours. But that story is being rewritten by a machine. For Gen Z, the first step into the workforce is starting to vanish. Artificial intelligence is taking the entry-level job and turning it into code. The spreadsheets, the admin, the research. Work that once taught you how a company runs is now being done faster, cheaper, and without a salary. A new global study puts it bluntly. Business leaders are choosing artificial intelligence over new hires. 41% say AI is already letting them cut headcount. 31% now look at an AI solution before hiring a person. 2/5 of those surveyed say junior roles have already been reduced. And a quarter believe most entry-level tasks could soon be automated. This is according to a British Standards Institution survey of 850 business leaders. The survey was conducted across the United States, the UK, France, Germany, China, Japan, and Australia. But behind those numbers is a deeper tension. Leaders say AI is unlocking enormous opportunities. It boosts productivity, it fills skill gaps, and it cuts costs in ways that were once unthinkable. 3/4 of executives now expect new AI tools to deliver results within the next year. But those gains are coming with a cost. Nearly 4 in 10 leaders in the survey admitted that entry-level roles have already been reduced. The disruption caused by AI is now playing out across the workforce. It's not the Gen Z alone who is affected. Companies are cutting jobs and they are starting at the bottom. As of this month, reportedly more than 180,000 tech workers have been laid off globally this year. Entry-level positions are often the first to go. They are predictable, they are process-driven, and they are now easily automated by software that never takes a break. That's why the first step into a company is disappearing. In the United States, data showed entry-level job postings for traditional corporate roles decreased by approximately 15% last year. Another U.S. report this year revealed a dangerous picture. Workers between the ages of 22 and 25 in jobs which are most exposed to AI have seen a 13% decline in employment since 2022. For many, this is the toughest job market they have faced in years. Some are calling it a job apocalypse. But here's the contradiction. Even as businesses shrink their workforces, they are spending more than ever on artificial intelligence. Companies including Microsoft, Google, Meta, and Amazon, among others, are pouring record sums in AI infrastructure.
Exciting chapter of search here.
The message from boardrooms is clear. Automation is no longer a side project. It is the business model. Efficiency is the priority. And anything that can be automated will be. That shift has consequences far beyond the payroll. Fewer entry-level roles mean fewer opportunities to learn on the job. Without that early exposure, young workers risk missing out on vital skills. And without that first step, building a career becomes harder. So for the Gen Z, the challenge is no longer just to get hired. It is to stay ahead of the machine.
And now, a word from the president.
Damn, it feels good to be a gangster.
It's a holiday weekend, but not a relaxing one for thousands of workers who now find their livelihoods at the center of the political impasse that is the federal shutdown. NPR's Stephen Fowler is following that story and joins us now to put it into context. Stephen, thanks for being with us.
Good morning.
So let's start with the layoff notices that started going out just as the weekend started. How many notices are we talking about? Who's getting them? What do we know?
There is a lot that we don't actually know still because these reductions in force are happening during a government shutdown where a lot of people getting told that they will be laid off and losing their jobs are also furloughed right now and aren't supposed to be working, checking their emails, things like that. Now, the White House said ahead of time the scope of these cuts would be, quote, substantial, but in court documents late Friday, the number for now is around 4,200 or so people across at least 7 agencies. That includes things like IT positions for the Internal Revenue Service, the entire remaining staff of the Community Development Financial Institutions Fund, more than 100 people at the country's top mental health agency, and offices within the already decimated Department of Education. It's important to remember there are laws and rules that govern how these layoffs are conducted, including a minimum 60 days notice of their end date, which for now is early December.
I mean, speaking of rules, is the administration on solid legal ground, or is this another unprecedented move?
So there's a reason there are court documents about the layoffs. A group of unions sued ahead of the shutdown, arguing the Trump administration's threats of mass firings if the government funding lapse wasn't solved was illegal. And also they say during the shutdown, when workers are divided into groups like those who do work without pay and those whose work isn't deemed essential and have to be furloughed, the lawsuit argues preparing notices to fire people isn't work that's allowed during a shutdown either. Government spending experts I've spoken with say that the temporary nature of a government shutdown should have no bearing on long-term decisions about the size and scope of the government. And speaking of spending cuts, President Trump had this to say during a cabinet meeting last week.
And we'll be making cuts that will be permanent. And we're only going to cut Democrat programs. I hate to tell you. I guess that makes sense. But we're only cutting Democrat programs.
Didn't the Department of Government Efficiency already comb through federal agencies and lay people off? Isn't that what DOGE was all about?
Yeah, that adds another layer to the shutdown impasse and why the needle hasn't moved as much with Democrats and Republicans in Congress. I mean, back in February, as part of the DOGE initiative, the White House asked agencies to create plans to slash their workforce. It was a multi-phase effort that included proposed more changes coming when the new fiscal year started October 1st. One expert I spoke with, Jessica Riedel with the Center-Right Manhattan Institute, said that reason is maybe one reason to take some of these drastic proposed changes with a grain of salt.
There's a lot of people in the government right now who were pretty sure their jobs were going to be eliminated 6 months ago, but are still employed by the federal government. And there's hundreds of billions of dollars in spending savings that were promised earlier in the year that never occurred.
Let me put it another way. Trump administration officials have said that Democrats caused the government shutdown. The government shutdown means making hard choices about spending and staffing, and the White House feels like it's forced to make these tough decisions. At the same time, this is an extension of that Department of Government Efficiency push to slash the federal government's size and scope that has been underway for several months. And before the shutdown even, we've reported on agencies hiring people back because they can't do basic functions or carry out the president's agenda items.
What about pay for active duty members of the military? That is could be a huge issue. They have a payday on Wednesday. What's the latest there?
Well, over the weekend, President Trump said on his social media site he's, quote, identified funds to ensure the military gets paid. A White House official not authorized to speak publicly says the Defense Department will use research and development funding, but it's not clear if that's legal. What is clear, it's part of the administration's push to take over appropriations duties given to Congress.
That's NPR's Stephen Fowler. Stephen, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Today, the ongoing turmoil at the Centers for Disease Control and the implications for keeping track of what's sickening Americans and what's killing us. The agency terminated around 1,300 employees on Friday, not just furloughed in the shutdown, but laid them off, but then quickly worked to rescind about half of those notices the next day. That's according to the union that represents federal employees. So what happened here? The New York Times reports those rehired were, quote, mistakenly fired in what appeared to be a substantial procedural lapse. So at least more Doge-like sloppiness, we can say. The remaining 600 still laid off were in offices including the National Center for Injury Prevention and Control, the National Center for Health Statistics, and the CDC's Washington office, which is the channel for communications with Congress. All of that as described by Axios. Health and Human Services Communications Director Andrew Nixon said the government acts, quote, non-essential employees. Now, on Friday evening, President Trump, speaking to reporters in the White House with Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. behind him, suggested the layoffs would target, quote, Democrat-oriented agencies in response to Democrats not voting to approve a stopgap measure to fund the government. Listen.
How many layoffs have you authorized for this first round, and from which agencies?
And it'll be Democrat-oriented because we figure, they started this thing, so they should be Democrat-oriented.
While several other agencies were impacted by the layoffs, the CDC was hit particularly hard. I guess they consider it Democrat to count how many people are getting sick or dying and from what. This is the latest of several incidents impacting the agency, including back in April, and we talked about it at the time, when the CDC lost about a third of its staff, though, again, many were rehired later. There was the firing of the CDC's director in less than a month after her hiring, and there was the shooting at the CDC's Atlanta headquarters back in August. So it itself was a target of political violence. Apurva Mandavili is back with us, science and global health reporter at the New York Times. Apurva, we always appreciate when you come on with us with your knowledge and wisdom. Welcome back to WNYC.
Thank you, Brian.
So fill us in a little more on what I gave in the intro to what happened between Friday and Saturday. How did they go from laying off 1,300 people to recalling 700 of them in a day?
Yeah, it's not really clear exactly the level of confusion and when they might have realized that they had made a mistake. The procedural lapse that you mentioned that we wrote about, it's the level of confusion just in talking to them on Saturday was really significant. So early on Saturday, I heard that the top two people of the measles response team had been laid off. But I can tell you that when I went back to the HHS with that, it seemed like that was a surprise to them. And they kept telling me that nobody in the measles office was touched. So I had to explain to them that there is no such thing as a measles office. When there is a measles outbreak, the CDC pulls people from all different parts of the agency, all different parts, because you need people with different kinds of expertise. And I don't think that the HHS realized that there is no such thing as an ongoing measles office. You only put that team together with all these different people from different parts of the agency when there's an outbreak. And when the outbreak goes away, those people go back. So I'm not sure they actually intended to get rid of any of those people. But once they discovered that, they had to bring a certain number of people back. And the way that the layoffs work, if you bring back one person from a unit that was laid off, you have to bring everybody back. You can't just bring that one person back. I found out that approximately double the number of people who were actually supposed to be laid off that day got notices. And so they were scrambling to rescind the rest of them.
You know what really made me jump out of my chair when I read it on Saturday, which is what made me want to focus on this as our, Tuesday health section topic for today. It was reading that the entire staff of the morbidity and mortality weekly report had been laid off. Now, this is not the New York Times. This is not something that is read en masse by people around the country. Maybe I reacted because, as some of the listeners know, once upon a time in my secret life, I went to grad school in public health. And it seems like some of those employees have been rehired, but Stat News reports, I'm just going to use their description of it, on the morbidity and mortality weekly report, not your beach reading, but that it has been on pause since the government shutdown began on October 1st. And it says other components of the report, which include supplemental and longer form reports, have also been slowed. So I know some of the history here. This was in the Times on this. The publication, its history includes a June 1981 report. Why am I citing 1981? That was when 5 previously healthy gay men were treated for an unusual pneumonia. It was the first hint of what came to be known as the AIDS epidemic. And the Morbidity and Mortality Weekly Report pegged it and put it on a lot of doctors and public health officials' radar screen. So can you talk a little bit about the place of that particular data collection and dissemination, publication, and what might be lost if it is lost?
Yeah, it's hugely important. I mean, as you noted, it's not beach reading, but it is essential reading for people in public health. You mentioned the first HIV report, but, on an ongoing basis, MMWR is where you would expect to see HIV statistics for the country reported in an easy way for the whole public health community in the country to digest. You and I have talked a lot about bird flu, and the case reports for some of the people infected with bird flu have appeared there. During the Mpox outbreak, when the CDC decided on who should get the vaccine and who shouldn't, or who it's not really recommended for, those appeared in the MMWR. One of the last reports before the shutdown was about this new amazing preventive drug called lenacapavir that people only need to take once every 6 months, and the guidelines for how U.S. doctors should prescribe that and how they should think about using it, that all appeared in the MMWR. So it is just a hugely important publication, and probably most Americans would recognize this, which is that every time there were new COVID vaccine guidelines, they would show up in there too. Anything that the vaccine committee decides comes out in the MMWR, and that's how the states know to interpret those guidelines, because they come out in great detail, and then the states and medical organizations can look at those guidelines and go, okay, this is how we're going to apply those. So not having that communication from the CDC is massively confusing to state and other public health officials.
Do you see this, as a health reporter for the Times, as part of a concerted effort to, what's the right term, just not report or cover up, if we want to be even less generous, what's really going on with health, and then also separately with climate in the country? I know they're talking about ceasing the carbon emissions or greenhouse gas emissions reporting program that's been in effect for a long time. They don't even want the major fuel installations and things like that to have to report their emissions. That's on the climate side. I think they shut down a number of other health data initiatives. I know I talked to the New York City health commissioner on the show about how they don't seem to want to track health disparities anymore, right, as part of the war on DEI. They don't want to look numerically at how particular diseases or conditions are affecting, let's say, poorer people of color as opposed to more affluent white people. What's the bigger picture, as you've been reporting on it or as you see it, of what they're trying to not let the public know or not even report about data, and why?
I mean, to begin with, we don't even know how many people are gone from the CDC. That sort of begins to tell you how little information we have. When we see, oh, so many people got laid off or so many people got those layoffs rescinded, we're just guessing at the numbers, and a lot of it is, self-assembled by the staff with the union. We don't have any clue what's going on there. Mm-hmm. And some of the teams lost, as you pointed out, are teams that collect data And so not having people collecting data is a real problem because then you don't know what's going on. They also got rid of this entire system that was supposed to modernize how states collect infectious disease data and report it to the CDC. It was supposed to be something that really brought the CDC into the 21st century, and a flaw that they recognized during COVID that we really, really needed to modernize our data systems. And that was well underway, and it's not clear what's going to happen with that now. And even globally, there are these massive surveys that happen in countries across the world that the U.S. government was helping to pay for, and that tells those governments what to prioritize in their own countries. And those surveys are now defunded by the government. They did manage to get some money elsewhere, but it's just been a very consistent pattern of not just getting rid of public health programs, but then also getting rid of the reporting on those public health programs.
With Apoorva Mandavilli, who reports on science and global health for the New York Times, as we talk about these mass layoffs, not just furloughs during the government shutdown, but layoffs that they're pinning on the government shutdown at the Centers for Disease Control and the implications for public health reporting and then eventually, potentially, for public health itself in the United States. Here's a text that came in. This says, I think you're misinterpreting Trump's use of the term Democrat layoffs. What he really means, according to this listener, is the people being laid off are mostly Democrats, union members, and people of color. That's what a lot of these DOJ cuts and other firings by Trump are really designed for, cutting people of color and union members out of the federal workforce. Eventually, he wants to replace them with right-wing whites. Now, that might be overstating it or oversimplifying it, but I wonder if you have any evidence that to any degree what that listener accuses them of is accurate.
Well, we have seen some signs of things like that, right? They've gotten rid of diversity initiatives at pretty much every agency. And there have been some efforts to look at the race of people who were let go. And it does seem like people of color are, it's sort of disproportionately affected. And it's not clear whether that's really an accident. It's not as extreme as, to be able to say with firm conviction that is exactly what's going on, but certainly that the statistics point in that direction. And, we also know that some of the things that they've gone after are things that they do believe are Democrat-led initiatives. Like, for example, one of the things that was cut on Friday was the office of the director of the Global Health Center. And we know they don't really like global health and global health aid. That's been very low on their priority. And that was, returned the next day because the leader of the measles team actually works in that office of the director, and so they needed her back. But it does seem like they have gone after some initiatives that they believe were put in place by previous Democratic administrations. And when I asked them actually on Saturday about this confusion on, why some people were laid off and then their layoffs were rescinded, I was also told that coding error, that was because the Biden administration had put those codes in place to confuse them. And when I pointed out that, no, that's actually how the CDC's system has always worked, then they said, well, the Biden administration had 4 years to fix it, and they didn't fix it. So I do think there's an element of wanting to blame the previous Democratic administrations for the problems they're dealing with.
Listener writes, do individual states have their own version of CDC for their population? And that's an interesting question, because if the states keep track of public health trends, disease outbreaks, and so forth, then maybe it's redundant that the federal government do it, but I don't know.
They don't. States definitely don't have their own CDC, and they don't even have the money to have, big operations. So when they are hit with a new disease, like, for example, when Mpox was spreading, they get on the phone with the CDC. I mean, it's impossible for every state to have experts in every disease. So they rely heavily on the CDC's expertise, and they call people, even for something like food safety, they'll call the CDC and ask, what should we do with this kind of, food-borne illness outbreak? What precautions should we take? And so to lose that expertise is a huge hit. And then the other thing that I think has gotten lost a little bit in the conversations about this is that about 80% of the CDC's budget goes to states and jurisdictions. It doesn't stay at the CDC. And so when you're cutting the CDC's budget, you are essentially cutting state health departments' budgets. And some states have already had to lay off lots and lots of people because they can't even support their own public health teams. And so they're being cut off multiple levels here.
Listener writes, how are they allowed to fire union workers?
It's a good question.
Right? Because there are
Yes.
contracts, collective bargaining agreements, presumably.
It's an excellent question, and I think the union that represents a lot of CDC employees is on the case, but we'll have to see what they end up being able to accomplish.
Are there, again, this may be beyond the scope of your reporting, but are there criteria that the government has to meet for laying off workers? When we're talking about layoffs, that's not, firing people for poor job performance. Layoffs are usually, I think in most organizations, firing people for economic reasons. But the government shutdown is temporary. Eventually it's going to end. And usually the government gets fully funded at that point in whatever the agreement is from the beginning of the fiscal year, October 1st, which is when the shutdown starts. So people get back pay. In this case, Trump says, this time maybe people won't get back pay. And they're doing this, which is different, laying off people, not just furloughing them until the shutdown ends. So does there have to be a rationale under these collective bargaining agreements, which this wouldn't seem to meet, assuming that the government is retroactively fully funded once they come to an agreement?
Well, they can, in theory, lay people off because they say that they're reorganizing an organization. And so in the case of the CDC and the HHS overall, for example, they've said repeatedly that what they're trying to do is reduce duplication. And I will say that that's not entirely without merit, that point. Mm-hmm. There is some duplication across federal agencies, and I think they're trying to get rid of some of it, but some of it is not just duplication. But they do have to get rid of entire units because of the way that those layoffs need to be. So they can't just fire the people they don't like. And that has been, I think, limiting for them because they don't understand the things that they lose. And then there's huge outcry, and then those people get brought back. And several of the HR departments were gone on Friday, and so were several departments of communication. So one of the things they've said is from now on, all communications across the HHS will be centralized. And so we don't need all these other communications offices at these different departments. But again, it takes expertise to communicate things about specific diseases. It's not something you can really centralize. And so, yes, you can reorganize, you can lay people off, but where does that actually leave you when you need to get things done?
Did the staff numbers at the CDC expand under President Biden, or let's say during the pandemic, as a result of the pandemic? Because I've seen some justification for trimming the staff of the Centers for Disease Control based on recent expansion that they now don't need anymore. Did it expand a lot?
It did expand significantly. I mean, there were a lot of people hired because they needed the manpower. They needed people to deal with the pandemic. They were putting out very detailed reports of infections. We were all looking at it all the time, right? Somebody needed to do that work and all the work related to the vaccines. And so there were a lot of people hired. And that's also true at state and local public health levels. They also got more funding. But what has happened this year is that either the funding has been pulled really abruptly, not giving those state and local departments time to think about how else they can accommodate those people or who exactly they need to lay off. Give them some time to basically prepare for that loss. They were all preparing for this to happen sometime next year. So that happened very abruptly. And then at the CDC, in theory, yes, you can say we are hiring, we've hired a lot of people and we need to get rid of people that were hired that we no longer need. But that's not how these layoffs have happened. Those layoffs have happened all across the CDC, not just necessarily in the units that did grow.
I want to acknowledge before we end that a listener texted, please mention that a police officer died in the CDC shooting. That was when somebody was shooting at CDC headquarters in Georgia earlier this year. Listener writes, this anti-public health rhetoric has had deadly consequences and will have more. And I think, obviously, we think any act of political violence is horrendous, no matter who it's aimed at. But that death didn't get a lot of press at the time. So just this detail from the BBC, just so we honor at least one person who died not of a disease but of political violence aimed at the Centers for Disease Control. The BBC version said a man who fired hundreds of rounds of ammunition at the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention headquarters last week, at that time, had expressed distrust of the COVID-19 vaccine, investigators say. Police officer David Rose, 33, who graduated from the police academy in March, died in hospital after he was wounded. So where does this all land? Last question. I guess it's impossible to really say, but what do you see as the next turns of the screw on, defunding the Centers for Disease Control and the data that it collects about public health, and who has any power to fight whatever they want to do that may be seen as excessive?
I'll answer that question, but before we do, I just do want to take a minute to say that, it's really tragic that that police officer died. But also, I was in touch with my CDC sources that Friday evening and all of that weekend, and they were terrified and traumatized. It's really quite surprising to me that essentially what's a terrorist attack on a federal building has gotten so little attention. I know that there are many, many people I've talked to who didn't even know this had happened. And that's, shocking. I was getting texts from CDC employees who were in lockdown that night until midnight in many cases, sending pictures of their offices that were riddled with bullet holes. Some of them actually had to run back into the building while there were bullets whizzing over their shoulders. It was terrifying for them. And I'm not sure that they've gotten really the level of empathy that they deserve for having gone through something like that.
Yeah.
As far as what's their future, I can tell you that some of those same employees are feeling like the CDC is not going to survive. I actually wrote a story in August when things weren't even, many things have happened even since then. And people said that at the time that the CDC seems like it's on its death knell and, anything can really finish it off at this point, and more things have happened. And really the people that I talk to on a regular basis, the public health experts, feel that the CDC that they knew is already gone to a large extent. And if it can be built back at some point, it's going to take a very long time.
Apurva Mandavili, science and global health reporter at the New York Times. We always appreciate when you come on with us. Thank you so much.
Always a pleasure, Brian.
See, white people don't get fired. They get transferred. Wow. And that rang a bell with some of the black guys, because immediately they thought about that, because they had experienced seeing that. I see, just that one statement. White people do not get fired, mister. In the system of white supremacy, white people don't get fired, just look like they got fired.
Black unemployment is surging again. This time is different. This article is by Lydia DePillis and read by an automated voice. Joblessness for black workers is rising again, 2 years after reaching a record low. It's a troubling indicator. Joblessness often spikes higher for historically marginalized groups during economic downturns and takes longer to fall. This time, the Trump administration's assault on diversity programs and cuts to the federal workforce could make it even more difficult for black workers to recover when conditions improve. The African American unemployment rate has surged over the past 4 months, from 6 to 7.5%, while the rate for white people ticked down slightly to 3.7%. On top of a slowing economy, the White House's actions have disproportionately harmed black workers, economists said. I think the speed at which things have changed in such a dramatic fashion is out of the ordinary, said Valerie Wilson, who directs the program on race, ethnicity, and the economy at the Economic Policy Institute, a left-leaning think tank. There's been such a rapid shift in policy rather than something cyclical or structural about the economy. At least since the 1970s, when the federal government started tracking unemployment by race, the rate for black people has run about twice the rate for white people. Because of inferior educational opportunities, the legacy of mass incarceration and discrimination over generations, black people confront greater challenges in the job market. A strong economy during President Trump's first term created more jobs for black workers, but many of them were lost when the COVID-19 pandemic hit in-person employment particularly hard. Generous public subsidies, though, cushioned the blow, and hiring rebounded quickly. In 2023, conditions for black workers looked as healthy as ever. Unemployment reached a low of 4.8%. Wages rose at their fastest pace since data collection began in the 1990s, and median black household wealth reached the highest level on record. Conditions started to deteriorate in 2024 after pandemic-era subsidies expired. Hiring slowed, and high prices weighed heavily on low-income earners. Black households were the only racial group last year in which median income fell and the poverty rate rose, according to the Census Bureau. I was hoping that the commitment to investing in America so that a broader set of Americans were actually receiving benefits in terms of low unemployment and higher wages would continue, said Diedrich Asante Muhammad, president of the Joint Center for Political and Economic Studies, a think tank focused on issues affecting black Americans. He said he was particularly disappointed in large businesses that said they would support black workers in response to protests for racial justice in 2020, only to pull back. Job losses are concentrated among black women working in professional services such as human resources, according to Ms. Wilson's analysis of federal data. A hiring freeze and mass layoffs in the federal workforce, which have continued during the government shutdown and now exceed 200,000, have also fallen disproportionately on black workers. The hiring freeze is an impediment to young workers trying to get their foot in the door, too. The federal government is one of those places people are able to get an entry-level job, said Benga Ahilor, the chief economist at the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities, which researches the social safety net. That's a whole industry that's closed to new hires. State and local governments have picked up some of the slack from federal agencies, but competition for those jobs has gotten tougher with more laid-off public sector workers looking for positions. Sherry Marshall, 26, who graduated from the University of California, Davis, a few years ago with a degree in psychology, has worked in Los Angeles for a rental car company and a homeless shelter. But both let her go, and she is still looking for a position that would put her education to use. It's always like high labor, low-paying jobs. Nothing sustainable, said Ms. Marshall, who works at a farmer's market on the weekends and is building up a freelance social media marketing portfolio between filling out applications. It's harder for me to get more technical and higher-skilled jobs, despite being qualified. Ms. Marshall recited her qualifications in a 30-second pitch during a job fair with city agencies last week at the Los Angeles Black Worker Center, where she also volunteers. The nonprofit has pushed local governments to hire more black workers because unionized public sector jobs have historically provided an on-ramp to stable employment. The federal backlash against diversity, equity, and inclusion practices may be making it more difficult for black workers to get hired in the private sector, too. Some of the strongest evidence for the efficacy of these practices, such as making sure to interview non-white candidates or reaching out to black and Hispanic students, come from federal contractors. In one of its first actions, the Trump administration ordered that group not to pursue racial equity anymore. Janelle Beloved Jenkins, co-executive director of the Los Angeles Black Worker Center, tries to build relationships with employers who say they are swamped with applicants. A lot of people get their jobs through networking, Middlesex Jenkins said. Part of our role is to create the programs that will create the network that connects highly skilled, qualified workers to employers who might not have initially seen them. Lower interest rates could offer some relief. Representative Ayanna Pressley, Democrat of Massachusetts, wrote to Jerome H. Powell, chair of the Federal Reserve, in early September, demanding that the central bank take stronger action to support full employment for black workers. Fed officials lowered rates later in the month for the first time this year and suggested that more cuts were likely. But Trump administration actions beyond workforce cuts and anti-DEI policies could create additional hurdles for black workers. The Department of Labor's proposed rollback of minimum wage and overtime protections for domestic workers, for example, would hurt their incomes. Home care aides for the elderly are overwhelmingly black and Hispanic women. And despite Mr. Trump's claim on the campaign trail that immigrants take jobs from black people, rising joblessness among black workers suggests that mass deportations of migrants haven't arrested the trend. Brittany Alston, director of the Philly Black Worker Project, said expelling immigrants harmed the local economy in ways that hurt black workers too. We know that an injury to one deeply is an injury to all, Ms. Alston said.
Context of White Supremacy. Gus T. Renegade in for another broadcast, hopefully to share constructive information on the global system of white supremacy. Pause for Officer David Rose, privileged black male, can say not really anything to like brag or anything like that about worthless Negro that I am, Gus T, but we did talk about that segment or that terrorist event. I was so thankful that was WNYC Public Radio, where they did say that terrorist event at the CDC that was just literally days, weeks ago, concurrent event with Charlie Kirk, suspected racist. Practically nothing was said about that. Now, that's one for sure. The CDC being in Atlanta, Georgia, Jimmy Carter rolling over in his grave. If Leroy, Jerome, Devontae, someone had, spilled out of Decatur, the projects around the HBCUs, something of that nature, Westlake, if someone had spilled out and a Negro and shot up the CDC, I'm mad, y'all messed up my entrepreneurial efforts, got my business messed up with all these vaccines and masks and all we had to shut down or whatever they had to do in Atlanta and all this. And Leroy is upset. Leroy, I got them. And I don't think no such thing as the Rona exists, and I'm mad and shot up the place and killed an officer. That's normally the sort of thing, we got cop killer. No, they, go nutty. Didn't say a word. Officer David wrote, privileged black male. He was only 33. Isn't that disgraceful? Workplace racism. Get killed on the job. Workplace racism. And the rest of the folks who work there terrorized, and then you're fired. Our times. Today's date, Thursday, October 16, 2025. So I have been told our weekly installment, Neutralizing Workplace Racism, not for spectators. Back at our normal time, we were 1 hour early so that I could go to the lecture last week that was also about racism, white supremacy right here in Seattle. I had to make the sacrifice not only of being on a little bit early, but also being downtown for the broadcast, because logistically there was really nowhere that I could broadcast and then be right, because I couldn't broadcast at town hall. They were only opened I think 30 minutes before the event took place. But yeah, logistically that was about the only location that I could be, and then also physically get myself to the event in 5 minutes. And the event was in downtown, so I would have to be. Anyway, I detest being in downtown Seattle, and apparently many, many people do as well. So unfortunate. Oh, well, 206. Now, never mind. Now, neutralizing workplace racism, not for spectators, particularly if you have figured out some strategy. Hey, you don't have to worry about the bullets flying in your workplace. You are not furloughed. You are not laid off. You have not been stressing for the last 6 months. They're going to fire me? Is my key card going to work tomorrow? They still going to let me in the building? That's not the last thing you think about when your head hits the pillow. Lakeisha is secure. I have a good parking spot tomorrow when I get there, and everything looking for a raise, and a chunky one too. If you have accomplished that in this environment, Lord Jesus, be on speed dial. The number is 720-716-7300. The code 564943 pound. Press star 61 if you would like to participate. If you have been impacted by the shutdown and all that, directly, indirectly, let us know. and or having difficulties in the workplace, number again, 720-716-7300, the code 564943 pound. Press star 61 if you would like to participate. The email untiljustice@gmail.com. Okay, few reports, then we'll get to the emails, folks who dialed in, all that good stuff. Wow, so much with regards to labor on the plantation. The first report that we heard, they were talking about the encroachment of AI on job opportunities. Now, President Trump didn't say the bots are taking your black job, but they said, oh man, job apocalypse, because they're just saying, hey, all these entry-level jobs and things where you could kind of get a toehold, at least an entry-level position, we don't need you. The AI can do that. We don't need you. Get out of here. We don't need you. In fact, just today, I could have played it. I saw online, First Post reported that Amazon and a number of the other IT companies, they were firing HR personnel because they're going to get AI to do that as well. Wow. It immediately reminded me, we had a young lady, black female, and she went to school, did everything correctly, right? Went to school, didn't sleep in, didn't have a whole lot of children with Leroy, didn't sit around and smoke crack cocaine. She graduated, did well, and she studied HR. And she said she was having difficulty getting a job in her field, human resources. They're giving, I didn't even think that would be a job. Uh-oh. AI gonna take that too. And they just said that today, not years from now, today. Amazon and other companies, we're laying off HR personnel. We don't need you no more. Get out of here. If that is the case, and they're talking about driverless vehicles are taking over, they said it's only 0.5% now, but it's going to be growing. Man, the next 10 years, what is the job that you can say, I think I would be okay from AI? Now, we did have non-Clemson grad. He said they came in and asked him about his job, and he said he in fact, he scoffed. I have no concerns at all. You know, I go out and do all my research and getting new training and such, and I go out and even learn about the drive to get my CDL so I can drive the city bus. I know the AI can't do that. No, I'm not concerned at all about them taking my job. So I guess that's one field. Maybe you can have some safety that they will not be encroaching. But wow, to be a young person in this environment, challenging to say the least. They said with the so-called government shutdown here in the U.S., and they're talking about the mass numbers of firings, and these are Department of Education, Centers for Disease Control. Wow. Again, you would think if you get a government job, like you got a good, stable Centers for Disease Control, you know? We just went to whole global pandemic. I should be super safe, unless I was one of those extra folks that they hired on. But if I got some tenure, I've been here for some years, hey, I should be good to go. Unless I, study some sort of Negro disparity, something like that. Other than that, I should be good to go. I say that all the time. If you're classified as black, it really doesn't matter what your job is. And Fuller used to say this all the way up to when Obama was in the White House, like even he could be fired in the next 5 minutes. White people have him pushing a mop at O'Hare Airport. So really can't afford to get comfortable, feeling good. We are still in a system of white supremacy racism, and they laid off 4,200 people at the Department of Education, which they had been asking folks and saying, we want to dissolve the entire department anyway. So this is just Whoopee, opportunity to fire some more folks. I would love to see the statistics. And they say they're hiding them, and we don't know because the folks are furloughed. We don't know the folks got fired. I would love to see the data. And that should be public. What are the racial demographics of the folks who got laid off at the Department of Education? Wow. Now, if you thought the schools were bad before, give it 2-3 years for all of this to, kind of settle in. You just had a child within the last year or two. By the time your child is ready to hit kindergarten in a few years, oh man. That would be something to talk about prior to hitting the bedroom. What do we think the impact of all this will be on our black offspring in a system of white supremacy racism? That might be one to have a number of conversations with your alleged care mate prior to hitting the bedroom. Might be fool talk too, because I don't have children. They even said they had folks, because all this has been going on for the whole year since Doge, Elon Musk, who's not even with President Trump in the same form anymore, they said, man, some folks, they've been thinking for the past 6 months, I thought I was going to be fired. You think they're going to let me go tomorrow? What in the world does that do to your health and well-being? I mean, I slightly snickered, but I mean, whoo, that is laugh to keep from going insane. What does that do to your mental health? Whew, that they're going to fire me tomorrow. Hope they don't fire me tomorrow. And really, the only thing that I can say is, unfortunately, if you are a victim of white supremacy classified as not white, that's really about how you should be thinking every day anyway, which is why one of many, many reasons why we do not qualify for mental health. But I mean, really, Bay Area mom told us this years ago. And she didn't say I go to work and I'm stealing trash bags. I'm stealing, extra toilet paper, paper clips, any other resources I can get. I sleep on the job. I'm trying to date all my coworkers. She didn't say that. She said, I do, follow the rules, try to do the best I can, take care of these children, show up on time, do as I'm told. And even still, I think they might fire me in about 5 minutes, which is true for all of us. That's what the system of white supremacy racism means. But I mean, wow. If anything, that's why you cannot be thinking be comfortable and cool. Like, man, for folks like that is a rude awakening. If you thought you were safe, had a good job, and I'm going to be here until I get ready to leave or retire or whatever. And now for 6 months, every day I get up and, well, let's see if the key card works. Man. System of white supremacy racism. And the stress of the whole environment where you have lots of people thinking that way for months on end, no end in sight. And now you even have to wonder, are we going to get a paycheck? How long do you think the shutdown going to last? You think they're going to... And then the same thing. When the shutdown is over, you think my key card going to work? Man. They said, and more fun now, the Centers for Disease Control, even that, I'm sure it's some white sacrifice, but I for real think a lot of this is getting rid of non-white employees, particularly non-white federal employees, where this was a means for a lot of non-white people to get a job with benefits, stable, where you could maybe take care of offspring, maybe even afford private schooling so you don't have to be as impacted by all of this. And cut all that. Hey, Neely Fuller Jr. was a federal employee for decades while he was writing his counter-racist book, no less. Anywho, but the Centers for Disease Control in Atlanta, the main branch, man, you would think, hey, not that we're physically safe, because obviously people come shoot up the place all the time, but at least we got a stable job, benefits, we're not going bankrupt in the next day or two. Maybe not, but you still can be fired. Get on out of here. And they even said within that, hey, you're at the CDC and you do any sort of studying on health disparities, i.e. medical apartheid and the impact of the system of white supremacy on the Negro and or non-white people in general, get on out of here. Pack your bags. They're probably the first folks fired, and you will not be rehired. But they said it was so, just all over the place. They thought it would be a few people here, maybe a few people that were hired on extra for the Rona. Oh, no. This is widespread. The CDC? Really? Why would that? That's sort of really widespread that, we want to get rid of the Department of Education, fire all these people at the Centers for Disease Control and do it in such a sloppy manner where you fire all these folks and then find out, wait a minute, some of these folks who kind of need to battle the measles, we got to rehire them and waste all that time and energy. This, at least for me, I classify as erosion, willful erosion of infrastructure. Same thing I look at, we don't want to repair the roads. We don't want to repair bridges and such. Just let it fall apart. Dams, levees, let it fall apart. Get the lead pipes rid of it. Let it fall apart. Forget it all. That sort of thing. Hey, if we think white genetic annihilation might be real and white people are concerned about their numbers and more non-white people taking over things, what might be more non-white people in this part of the world, let it all go to ruination. Might be more of that sort of willful, deliberate, but I mean, wow, gutting of the Centers for Disease Control? And even I would look at that white sacrifice. Maybe this does have an impact on, and they, enumerated all of the impacts and local health departments, how much they depend on the CDC and getting information. We're headed into flu season. I know that's not quite the Rona, but I mean, that's a big deal, generally speaking. And white sacrifice, but who really would be impacted by this in terms of health? Usual suspects, non-white people in this case, victims of white supremacy. That would be my guess, because we're already at a deficit in terms of health anyway. Let's see. And they said specifically they had the person who texted in. That was a New York Public Radio WNYC segment. They had the person who wrote in to Brian Lair and said that they thought Trump was specifically trying to get rid of so-called Democrats, union employees, and so-called people of color. Now, if they just said non-white people and say that first. President Trump has come out and said that he's trying to get rid of democratic programs and all that. He said that like flagrantly. Now, the unions, I would have to go back. I don't know if he said explicitly that he's trying to get rid of unions in his Doge efforts. I have to go back and look at that, although his conduct might reveal something different. But I would have to see, is he firing lots of, union folks? I know folks have said he's worked against unions, as have many other administrations. And then the DEI component, I feel like that's kind of flagrant too, because he's been so aggressive about that from the beginning of his administration. So I know he hasn't come out and said explicitly that we don't want Negroes within the federal government. Man, that's enough. I just look at the data, because New York Times even, they've had a number of reports looking at the number of people that he has hired, fired within the federal government, and it's a lot of dark people, black people specifically. Not that I would expect, President Trump or anyone to come in and hire a lot of black people and brag about it. Not that I would expect that, but just, man, make it explicit. I would even point that out to people. This is what happened. I would get some of those New York Times articles too. Like, this is not me talking wacky. I didn't get no Alex Jones reporting here. This is the New York Times. And they got lots of, it's, well cited within the report about why this is happening and what they have seen, logistics on all of this. Terrifying. Even that last report that was AI read. See, you can't even depend on narration job because the AI can do it and do a pretty good job. That report from the New York Times that was just from Sunday. I'll make sure I give the accurate date. I think it was Sunday. Yeah, I think that was from this past Sunday. Black unemployment is surging again. This time it's different. Now, that portion, it says, one, at least since the 1970s, when the federal government started tracking unemployment by race, the rate for black people has run about twice the rate for white people because of inferior educational opportunities, the legacy of mass incarceration and discrimination over generations. Now, see, they can't just say, because really all of that is white people deliberately practicing white supremacy, racism, global system. That's what all of that is. It's not inferior education. No, that's white people don't want to educate black people. The legacy of mass incarceration, that's super predators all the way up to today. Khalif Browder, what do you mean legacy? That's past tenses. The white people aren't actively doing this right now, 2025, nigh on 2026. Discrimination over generations, white supremacy, racism right now. They went on, they talked about it, and I had planned, before we even went live, I had planned, make sure that you include that report that was just today, like minutes before we went live. Amazon, these other AI firms, firing HR personnel. We don't need you. We got the AI to do all of this. And I remember that young lady who said, hey, I have a degree. I went, like to college and everything, spent all that time and energy to get training to be an HR personnel, and I'm having difficulty getting a job. And now, you might be having a lot of white people saying the exact same thing. The bot then took my job too. They have the young lady in the report from the New York Times, Sherry Marshall, black female. She says she graduated from the University of California, Davis, got a degree in psychology, and she's worked at a rental car company and a homeless shelter. Wow. Now, I guess maybe the latter, maybe. But I mean, I reckon that is not the vision that she had for her degree, especially with the cost of living and everything, and even the cost of getting that degree at one of those expensive Golden State institutions. Whew. She says always high labor, low paying jobs, nothing sustainable. Miss Marshall works at a farmer's market on the weekend. Now, I'm certainly not bashing farmers markets. Gus T loves the farmer's market. But if you go to school for all that time and spend all that money, take all those classes to get a psychology degree, and you end up having to work at the farmer's market, you could have done that. You could have dropped out of high school, really. You could have been Mark G.E.D. Furman and went to work at the farmer's market selling blueberries and cherries. I mean, why do you need a 4-year or whatever? Why do you could have been my man Mark Furman all the way. GED, community college dropout 3 times, and you could still go work at the farmer's market. You could have saved a lot of time and money. Maybe even, come up with some brand new grapes, crop resistant cantaloupes, who knows, and made a lot of money, who knows, and not had all that debt and wasted time from college. They do that with black people, all that. I was even thinking, they had a report today, WUNC, this North Carolina Public Radio, and it said, getting that college degree, is it still worth it? Man, I'm going to have to timestamp this. So Gus T is making this statement applicable forward of 2025, Thursday, October 16th. This is logic applying forward of today. My understanding is that old-timey days, People who got a college degree made substantially more than people who did not. Like if you just graduated from high school, dropped out of high school, whatever the case, you made a lot less over the course of your lifespan than people who graduate from college. That, I think, was true for a number of years. I do not think that that is going to be true moving forward of this day. It may not have been true for some years. I don't know. But at least from this date forward, I do not think that that will be true. I think, one, you have so many more people going to college than you did before. Like when people started taking that survey, so much is available online. You can go to college on your phone now. They got classes available on YouTube and all that. So that will not be nearly as exclusive as it once was in terms of college education, even Mark Furman, all of that. Anyway, and beyond all of that, with the bots and everything else that is taking place, oh man, you can end up with a lot of shit. In my view, you already have a lot of Sherry Marshalls in terms of people who have all kinds of highfalutin college education. You've had that like really for over a century on the plantation. You have black people who have medical degrees and said Dr. Welsing was fired. Black people with medical degrees, and they end up having to go work at the farmer's market or do custodial work. Black people with all kinds of fancy highfalutin degrees and cannot get anything. White people will not hire them to do anything. Last hired, first fired. Get on out of here. You and all your fancy degrees. Make Kanye West make a song about that. I think maybe before, I think you had a stack, and I mean racks, of black people who went to school, college debt, maybe got scholarships or what have you, and could not get anything in their field. I think it's racks of that existed before, but I think forward of this date, with all of the technology and everything else, myriad of other factors, system of white supremacy, white genetic annihilation, I could not look at a black person in particular, as long as the system exists, and tell them truth like, yeah, you go get that 4-year degree in whatever said field. When you come out, it'll be worth it. Like you will be in a much better position than if you had not done that, or people who, mess around or just go right into the workforce and start working hard right out of high school. I don't know. I couldn't even pick if you picked engineering, I guess, but I just told you they had all those IT layoffs. I could not tell you at all, especially if you pick something like psychology, and I'm like, ooh, you might even be better just dropping out of high school. Go to Mark Furman, see what you can do at the farmer's market or whatever until you get a plan together. But that wow, you could just end up with a lot of debt and wasted time and skills that you will never be able to use at all. Job-apocalypse. Would be lots to chat on. Any hoodles. If we have black people, and they had the LA work fair. What is it? The Los Angeles Black Worker Center. Man, if I had known about this place, I would have checked it out while I was there. What does that look like? Where are they able to hook you up with jobs? It said that they push local governments to hire black workers. Are they effective? Did they get the local governments, when they had the fire at the beginning of the year, did they go out and make sure that they got black, construction units to do part of the cleanup, and black carpenters and such to do the rebuilding, and all of that? Would seem like that was a lot of work required with all that cleanup and rebuilding that has to go and still going on, right? That would be one to investigate. Did they, how effective are they? Where is this place even at? I'd have to find that on the map, to see, where all this is located at and everything. Anyway, but yeah, that's, man. And the Philly Black Worker Project. Where is that at as well? I haven't been to Philadelphia in a long time, but if I get back over there, I want to see where they are and how effective they are as well. Any hoodles. It is not so-called the illegal immigrants and all that other dark people taking black jobs. It seems it might be President Trump. If you're a Negro federal employee, it might be President Trump has taken your job, talking about you've been furloughed and laid off and don't even bother coming back. You are not essential. Beat it. President Trump took your job, your black job, federal benefits and all. Any hoodles. News reports, the New York Times has had some remarkable, I would definitely save those. Anybody talking about, white people are being hard. No. They keep both of them. They all said the same thing, disproportionately black. They didn't even say that tacky phrase, black and brown. They didn't say POC. They didn't say that tacky, the worst that turns my stomach. Rotten milk. BIPOC. What are you talking about? They didn't even put that old tacky language out there. They said, Negras losing their federal jobs. Negras. Anyway, number again, 720-716-7300, the code 564-943 pound. Press star 61 if you would like to participate. Just people don't think I'm being slick. Now, they did say people of color in the WNYC report. I was talking about the New York Times articles, and they have a plethora. They do not say nothing about no BIPOC and all that. I just said the title of the report I was just talking about is Black Unemployment is Surging Again. It is not BIPOC, POC, black and brown, anything else tacky. It is black unemployment is surging again. Black and I'm proud. Man, to be young and black in this environment, oh man. And if you're at the HBCUs, they are shooting up the campus and threatening them every day. They even had the article this week. They said the North Carolina HBCUs, they're taking special security precautions to make sure that folks are safe because they're having homecoming events, at the different institutions and such this month. So they're taking all these precautions for safety. What in the world? I wake up at A&T trying to go to school, Winston-Salem State, trying to go to school, learn, get my education, see if I can get a job and not get doged. And thank God they got extra security. I know for some people that would not make me safe, just going out and seeing a barrage. What does that mean? Off-duty security officers have taken over the campus? Wow, I feel great. Just like Ruby Bridges, spectacular. Yes, I want mom and all of my relatives to come and see us for homecoming. Don't mind the security for that. Just we're gonna go have. It's gonna be great. The game is gonna be spectacular. They're gonna wand everybody down. So but it's gonna be great. I said, Dr. Welsing. She said HBCU. Dr. Welsing. She said black people do not qualify. It was not black. It was victims of white supremacy. Do not qualify for mental health. Absolutely. Can't have no pyrotechnics at the HBCU events. Don't know if that's white gunfire, Peyton Gendron snuck out of prison, or keep it quiet, peaceful. We'll just do the dancing and everyone can get home safely. Go Aggies. I don't remember what it is for Winston-Salem State, but right on for them too. Number again, 720-716-7300, the code 564-943 pound. Press star 61 if you would like to participate. The email untiljustice@gmail.com. Let's see, folks who dialed in, if you have commentary to share, line should be open. Let's see, victim in New Jersey should be with us, privileged black male.
Hey, what's going on, Gus? You know
Yes,
what's
sir.
kind of worrisome about AI and HR? There's been reports that, you know, black people have been discriminated, you know, by name, where people in the HR department, seen an applicant who had what will be seen as a black name, and those applicants were disqualified. So if AI is now people, if it's left up to computer system, you know, if any kind of discrimination is going on, who do you sue? Who do you blame? So that's something that will be of some. The job that I have, I'm thinking be replaced AI because I'm not driving truck. I'm still hands. I do deliver to restaurants, schools, and so I don't think just yet AI is able to do my job, but I wouldn't be surprised if they found a way to have that done. But unless they're going to have robots that can, pick an order, take it off the truck, walk it inside of a restaurant. So maybe for the next maybe 5 or so years, 10 years, maybe I'm safe, but I'm still not even confident with that. But I'm definitely the shutdown, man. I try to stay away from political conversations, but this administration, I mean, I'm predicting, it's gonna be a disaster as it relates to black employment. I know a lot of people was excited about the overtime. Trump made a promise that he wasn't going to overtime. I'm not sure if that went into effect. I haven't really been watching. So this is somebody who is really, really like going out of his way to create unemployed people. And I'm just, this is a man who is wealthy, but it just seems that the likes of Elon Musk, Doge, Donald, they really don't care about working people. So I know they don't care about working people, especially when, they speak about DEI, autocracy, that's a word that's, that's often used now about, people getting employment or meeting goals, getting rewarded based on meritocracy with not handouts or, because of race or sex. But it's troublesome. But I just feel like that's why I think we just need to be a little bit more just a little more observant about policies, about intention, and not being fooled or used. Even when it relates to I understood the argument with low wage workers as it relates to immigration. I get it. But I just always thought that, you know, the people who are to blame are the people who are in charge. That's white people that run these corporations, white people that is creating policies in Washington state government, you know. So, yeah, but I'll close with that.
Much obliged. Privileged black male victim in New Jersey. I certainly encourage, support, not quarreling or discussing politics, period, before we even get to the quarrel, which is right behind it. But no chit-chatting about politics in the workplace, even if you work with exclusively people classified as black. Big no, especially now with everybody being stressed and worried about their job and finances. Like, zip it. Now, he said other so-called low-wage workers blaming the immigrants, dark people, you know, these folks hopping the border and such. It's their fault. You know, they're coming over. It's their fault that we're not making more money. Or their fault that we might lose our job or whatever. You know, our gripes are, man. You mean the people? Well, now see, wouldn't be any discussion, but I mean, it would be real. Or one, that's what Trump told us in the election. That's what he did. They taking your Negro jobs. That's what he said. I do not agree because I have not seen any of those folks get on TV and say. Matter of fact, I haven't heard anybody say during the whole shutdown, it's, you know, the Beaners' faults. You know, it's the wetbacks' fault. That's why we got to have the shutdown. That's why we got to do these layoffs. That's not what they said. They said efficiency. See, we got overlap. See, we got non-essential employees. See, those are the types of things that they have said as to why they are doing, and/or DEI. Democrats are to blame, whatever that means. But I haven't heard them say Beaners or nothing about that. So-called illegal immigrants, none of that. Heck, we got to fund so-called alligator Alcatraz. I haven't heard any of that. So, yeah, that, nah, man, usual suspects. Although, again, I would not get into any argument. That, to me, just sounds like further what Mr. Fuller said. If you do not understand white supremacy racism, what it is, how it works, everything else will only confuse you for sure. But that's someone right there like, I'm not going to get in there. Oh, man, Devontae, let me correct you, black brother. You got this thing all confused. See, no. Why don't you read Neely Fuller Jr.? Now, I know some people, they got much better social skills than Gus T. They go, why don't you read Brother Fuller or check out Brother Fuller and get his book, producejustice.com, and get that right, brother. You just ain't got the correct logic about it. They could go in and do it, and they might, shake hands and go have lunch and become, friends for the next 20 years. No, they'd be ready to punch me in the nose, and I might have to, run for my life. They got a switchblade in hand. So, yeah. They let me know, okay, that's their victims guaranteed qualified. Zip it. They come over and ask me, don't you hate these old beaners and pepper? But get on back to work. You take good care of yourself, Leroy. Don't have anything to say about any of that. Not going to get into no honey. Yeah, they shouldn't be able. Even if I did have that view, that's probably not something I would say in the workplace. You might work in a place where everyone thinks that way and agrees. I do not think that's professional, appropriate. It's not related to your job. Maybe if you work at ICE, I guess maybe. But if you don't work at ICE, that's not, what we came to work about. I would not encourage having that sort of discussion in the workplace. Talk about that on your free. In fact, maybe if it was a black person, maybe depending on the rapport that I had with them, I might say to them, hey, that might not be something that you want to publicize in the workplace. Wrong person hears that, could be trouble. Just stick to the, get a raise. You want to get information on that, that sort of thing. But if I didn't have rapport with them, I wouldn't even say that. Now, a privileged black male, no wonder, said he's not as concerned about his job being taken at this point by the bots. He doesn't think they'd be able to get the orders and figure out the placement and all of that, which is probably true. He said he thinks he might be safe for the next 10 years, but keep an eye out to see how all this develops. And the language that's being used with them saying the plutocracy is to blame. Like, what? I've heard that word used before too, but oh my, if there is a so-called plutocracy, it would be individuals classified as white, all of them. The white person on the park bench, Elon Musk, like all of them. That would be the so-called plutocracy, and that is the system of white supremacy racism. But they are the folks that are to blame for all of this. The low-wage workers, the non-white people hopping the border, all of it. Shutdown, any other problems you want to pick out in the known universe, since people classified as white are in charge. They are to blame. Mostly we should just be trying to get rid of racism. Anywho, much obliged. Victim in New Jersey, *61. Other folks, if you have commentary to share impacted by the shutdown and or white supremacy racism in the workplace, number again, 720-716-7300, the code 564943 pound. Press *61 if you would like to participate. Let's see, I'll get in one email, see if other folks have commentary to share. Email number one, let's see. Greetings, Gus. I wanted to share a workplace incident that happened this week, Tuesday, October 14. That's the day after the so-called holiday. Hopefully nobody had any tacky, I don't know, they have Indigenous Peoples Day around these parts. So if they had that or Columbus Day, I reckon, I don't know. But hopefully you had no tackiness and it was just a boring day where you got paid. Maybe you got double time, holiday time, both. So he continues, a little background. I'm a black male. I'm a mail carrier for the United States Postal Service. Ooh, that's, I believe, a federal job. Ew. And they've been talking about the post office specifically and saying they're so inefficient, bankrupt basically, and we need to get rid of Negro carriers like you. Maybe we can get the bots to do his job too, that sort of thing. My position is carrier technician T6. As a T6, I don't have my own route. Instead, the role of the T6 is to cover 5 different routes every week. The pros are slightly higher pay, less boredom, and less responsibility to maintain a route as the full-time regular. The cons are you don't have a dedicated daily vehicle, you work behind other carriers, and you deal with 5 different regulars. Last weekend, I covered one of the routes on my swing Friday and Saturday. Sunday and Monday, the post office was closed, as I said, Columbus Day, but parcel deliveries occurred both days for the same route. On Tuesday, the regular who came back from 4 days off sent me a nasty text message and picture about something he found done wrong on his route at 5 p.m. while we were both still out working. The text message reads, forward. Blank means if she gets parcels, wait for it, forward them. This text and photo attached means he supposedly found a parcel delivered into a mailbox that should have been held or forwarded. This can easily be fixed by taking the parcel he found and forwarding it. The text caught me off guard because it was meant to be condescending, rude, and or showing their frustration. My initial reaction was being upset, and it distracted me while I was still working. After thinking about it, it's possible I did it or another carrier who made deliveries on Sunday or Monday. But His conclusion was, I did it. Instead of engaging in an argument, accepting responsibility, or suggesting it could be someone else's fault, I replied to his text message at 6:52 p.m. My text reads, if an error or issue happens on the route in the future, do not text about it anymore. Wait and speak to me directly at the station. Succinct, 2 sentences. I chose to do this because I worked the swing for 9 months, and this is the second incident this particular regular has blamed me for something I didn't do by text. Also because he doesn't speak to me the way he sent me the text message. I found it cowardly and was almost certain he would be timid and not say what he did in person. His response to this was to put another accusation on me, that I left 5 doors open on the route at 2 different locations over the weekend. He's referring to what we call CBUs, or cluster boxes people retrieve their mail from, that we unlock and lock to deliver mail and parcels, and that he would be snitching on me to management about it. Well, so I thought about how Neely Fuller Jr. says never make an accusation at work because the burden to prove is on you. Then thought about how on both Sunday and Monday others had access to the route, usually lower-level non-career employees working. So although what he's saying may be true, I'm confident I didn't do that. I sent one final text reminding him not to text me anything about the route again, and a thank you. Courteous. What I was reminded of was to always be suspicious of white people. Even though me and this particular white person were cordial for months, he showed his true self over time. And as I expected, the next day at work, we crossed paths many times, and he didn't say a word to me. And even if he did make this report against me, it couldn't be proven that I did it. But you could only make a report like that if you want something bad done to the other worker. I'm guessing termination. Yet we're supposed to be union members together. We got that again, getting rid of union members. Me and this person have a month of difference in seniority. We've been doing the job for years, so his intention wasn't to teach. His intention wasn't to teach, instead to cause terror. I've attached a screenshot of the text and a photo of the suspected racist in the email. Oh yeah, I definitely think this person, based on the picture, would be classified as white, for sure. And that, I think, is great in terms of, one, stopping or requesting that he not text, because you could be out getting these texts while you're driving, and unless I've been misinformed, this does seem like a job where you have to do a lot of driving, so you're supposed to be focused on being safe. You got all these crazy folks on the road and what have you, delivering your parcels in a time-efficient, timely manner, and safely, doing so in the safest manner possible, get back, to the station or what have you. Not, responding to these allegations, which maybe they're true, maybe they're not, maybe you did it, maybe you did not, but all that can be investigated once, we get back to the base. I mean, for all of these, I think exactly the conclusion that he reached. This is not to teach. This is not like on-the-job training, to make sure that we're all getting things done in the correct manner and the mail is secure. That's not what this is for at all. This is just so that I can, Count Negra, you don't know what you're doing. You messed it up. And he's not even stopping to take the time. Like, I'm sure he knows as well as you do. Oh, wait a minute. This is not this Negra's, regular route. I guess it's possible somebody else could have done this. Like, did he do a full-fledged investigation? Like, he got all the door cams in the neighborhood and was able to ascertain without no doubt, 1,000%, This nigger did it, and boo-hoo-hoo, I'm going to give him a good tongue lashing on this text message, and you know Count Coon, and you get your work together. Really? You did all that? No, and it's a bunch of that, racist, cowardly racist behavior where they love that, fussing at black people for things that they know we didn't do. You didn't have nothing to do with this. This is not your fault. Might even say the same way that they did. They're going to take your jobs. Just blaming non-white people for things that we did not do, in particular people classified as black. But then I'm going to give you a good reaming out, and I'm going to come, and you know you shouldn't have done that. What did you take Susan Smith's baby for? You know you shouldn't have done that. Did we be nice to you? And I didn't take no child. I didn't leave the mailbox doors open. What are you talking about? And then see, the coward that he probably knows you didn't do this, because then you're there in person, and it could be, look here, Leroy. We put that uniform on, and we are supposed to represent the federal government. And we go out here, and we cannot have security issues. They put pipe bombs in the mailbox and crack cocaine. It could have been a teaching moment to make sure we do the job correctly. No. He didn't even, real talk, he didn't come up to ask to make sure. Did you lock the doors, Leroy? Tell the truth. He didn't even do that. Didn't say a word. Cowardly, and I strong just because of that alone. Like, if I really think you messed this up, and I'm a snitch on you, messed this up, and I could have been blamed for this, and we're at minimum, you're not doing the job right. You're messing it all up and making us look bad, and I'm gonna tell on you. I got no problem. What it do? Morning, Ted. You can speak and move forward, even address it with them. I did make the report, and hopefully we'll get it solved, whatever the case. If we got a rapport, then I can come talk to you about it directly. But I mean, you're going to do all that via text and nothing to say? That's what, and I've said that for years, like all of it, in addition to expecting to be fired, expect to be falsely accused of anything. You stole all the company toilet paper. We seen you do it. You stole all of the cardboard boxes. You stole all the paper clips. You stole all the rubber, but whatever it is, expect to be accused. You did it. You messed it up. It's your fault. We're going to reprimand you for it. Exactly what he said there. I had to get calm, get my emotions, and even what he said too. And that's why I said I think it's great that he said, hey, just don't text me. Let me know when we get back to the station. Thank you kindly. Because it was distracting him. And I think that's a part of the intention as well. They want us. I said, he's driving a lot of times in this. Maybe he stopped and delivering something, but you got to do a lot of driving. There is no reason for me to be, I'm on the road trying to make sure I'm safe and what have you, navigating in a mail truck, which, they have to drive irregular anyway. And now I got to be, my phone is going off and responding to all this goofiness, false racist charges. No. Cut all that out so I'm not distracted. Let me focus on my job. And you're wasting my time. That's 30 minutes that I could have, get that out of my brain computer so that I can get back to the base quicker, get home to my attempted family and such, counter racist writings or whatever. But responding, because this is going to happen. You're going to be accused of something. When it does, compose. I said that's number one. He didn't say, he texted him. And he responded, who do you think you are? My name is Leroy Jackson, and Leroy will go upside your. You don't tell me that I left. I didn't leave the mailbox, but I will beat your cracker hind part. He didn't say that. That is not the way. You are going to be falsely accused. If you are a Negro, classified as black, system of white supremacy remains until we get this problem solved. If you work long enough, you are going to be falsely accused. They're going to blame you for something. It might not be as bad as you stole a white woman's 2 children, but it's going to be something. Somewhere between you stole the white children and the box of rubber bands, you are going to be blamed. So, already having in mind, this is how I will respond. Because this might even be updated, because he might have snitched for real. He might have went and told the postmaster or whoever else, and you have to come in and answer to these charges. You left the mailbox doors open, and maybe you even tried to steal a mailbox truck too, or mail truck too. Be ready to respond. Get the I think the young privileged black male tumbling dice who drives the bus, they accuse him of something every other week. He says same thing. You all got that. I know they got videos at the post office, so I'm sure we got video. Maybe they even got video in the truck. We can see. And hopefully we'll get to the bottom of this so that we don't have this problem in the future. Thank you kindly. Professional, courteous, channel the spirit of Dr. Welsing, who was also fired, but channel the spirit of Dr. Welsing. Respond the most calculated, scientific manner possible that will benefit you, but expect to be falsely accused of something. Excellent job to the person who wrote in. I think that's just a great job in requesting that they not just send you all these texts to distract you and get you all riled up while you're trying to focus on doing your job, to impair your performance, as I said, and then he's too cowardly to say anything about it directly in person. Excellent job. Focus on your safety and getting your parcels delivered timely. Email again, untiljustice@gmail.com. untiljustice@gmail.com. The number 720-716-7300. The code 564943 pound. Press *61 if you would like to participate. That's kind of wacky now that I'm thinking about it a little more. Like the U.S. Post Office, that's like you're a federal employee. He didn't say nothing about the shutdown. Are they, like, if you're a mail carrier, are they not, you work at the post office, period, are they not worried about not getting a check or being furloughed? Like, he didn't say nothing about that. He didn't, like, I'm being retarded? Am I being retarded? Are they, because they said the military, right, they're worried about getting paychecks and they having to, do funny things with the books and everything to make sure that, soldiers are paid. I guess if you're going to be sending them out to take over cities and such, they better get a paycheck. But, like, dang, are they, I'm going to check on that. Like, are they, the folks who do the mail, they're not concerned? Like, we know we're not going to get furloughed. Like, mail got to be rain, sleet, hail, shutdown. We know we're going to be good. Like, they're not worried about their paycheck either. They know they're going to get a paycheck for sure whenever the postal, that's wacky. If you are listening, black brother, you don't have no concerns about the shutdown being if I'm being retarded, y'all let me know, but I'm pretty sure that's a federal job, right? Anyway, *61 for the folks who dialed in. Other folks, right on cue, privileged black male, tumbling dice. We'll hear what he got accused of this time. They said he was going to take the weed whacker. They said he took the weed whacker. They were going to go through his possession. We got to check your trunk, tumbling dice, because you done stole our weed whacker, amongst other things. And you raped a white woman, too. Tumbling dice should be with us as well.
I'll do that. May I be heard, Gus?
Yes, sir.
Anyhow, Gus, I'd like to add to that email, because yesterday I was in my car on my break. On my break now, minding my own business, and same thing. A non-white, non-black male called my supervisor and told my supervisor that I was sleeping in my car when I was just, I was just on my break, and minding my own business, not troubling nobody, and I was on my official break, and it really, I'm still upset, man, because I don't bother nobody, So I went and I made and then on top of that, yesterday morning, one of the kids got on the bus and called me a McNigget. He meant to say McNigger, you know what I'm saying? And it's just bad, man. So yesterday, was a bad day for me, man. But yeah, I got lied on. I got falsely accused of sleeping. And then he was snapping pictures of me with his cell phone, snapping pictures of me while I'm in my car. And so I don't know if that's legal or illegal or not, but I made a complaint about it because, you know, this has to stop. You know what I'm saying? And then I complained to the supervisor. I was talking to the supervisor about it. This same person walks up and tried to bait me. He tried to bait me into a confrontation, like he wanted me to go off and start a fight with him right in front of the supervisor. So, you know, this is type of stuff, man. It just gets to the point where, you know, these people push you, man. They really, really push you, and they lie on you. And then they try to get a reaction out of you so you could go off on them, you know. But, you know, it's like you say, you have to maintain your composure or else, you know, you're gonna tip the scales, you know what I'm saying? But that's all I have to share. And I've been having problems on the tune-in station, so it says there's an error because I haven't been able to get a hold of you because I phoned in on my phone tonight, but I've been having issues with that. But anyhow, I got some more stuff to share, but I just wanted to share these two things with you today. It's been a rough day yesterday, man. So it's affected me so much that I don't think I'll be going to work tomorrow, and they're short-handed of bus drivers, but I think I'll just stay home because I don't need no trouble, you know. I'm still kind of riled up from yesterday. I've never been like this. You know, I've never been so riled up before, but I say I'm going to stay home tomorrow before I get myself in some trouble. So that's all I got to share, Gus.
Wow. Tumbling dice, privileged black male. Number one, I say for everyone, I think it's super important to recognize when you are frustrated, like more so than you normally would be. When you can feel it, like I am stressed, I'm angry, frustrated, all of the above maybe. But the terrorism from the workplace has really gotten to me. I think that's so important because I think frequently either we're in positions where we're not allowed to take time off for health reasons, just to care for ourselves and kind of replenish from all the terrorism, and or often we are trained, you know, we tough, you know, we endure anything and you just take it, and boy, we black people endure anything, and our ancestors were slaves and we made it through, that you can make it through. And come on. No, that is exactly how you end up with black people. D'Angelo transitions at 51. They mentioned Chadwick Boseman because they all passed away, privileged black males, but they all passed away from gastrointestinal issues, cancer. And they said these sorts of lifestyle cancers, wow, really bad, flourishing, especially for black people, but really bad. Oh, got to do more, eat better, take better care of ourselves, all of which is true. But for the workplace, Dr. Welsing, again, we do not qualify for mental health period, because of the system of white supremacy racism. So when you're feeling it, he said, man, I'm going to not keep my composure, end up saying something, accusing me of stealing a weed whacker and sleeping in my car, come take pictures and filming me, and I'm not going to maintain my composure. I need a day just to get myself together, or maybe a couple days, just get my rest, and I can journal about what happened and take some time, just, you know, maybe talk to some of my attempted family members about what's going on and get myself together. But I do not need to be around these racists for another day, enduring all of this, and not to be minimized within all of that. He said the racist child called him McNigger. He has told us about a litany of racist insults from these racist woman, racist man, racist child. He has told us many times about the ways that they have abused him driving the bus over the year, even during the Rona years. But I mean, man, you get terrorized all day long. I'm just trying to make, a few nickels and live my life as best I can. And the very children that I'm charged with getting safely to and from school, watch it, McNigger. Obese told us, that these generation, they are the best we've ever had. They're the least racist ever. Like, they love black people. They listen to Beyonce and Jay-Z all day long. They love black people, Please. Say they go to school with his daughters and they love Sasha and Malia. Please. Obese lied to us a few times, but whatever. But I would report that. I know you've told us before, and then, hey, your might be reporting it to their parent. So, but I would at least want a written record of exactly what was said, timestamp, date, all of it. Now, like I said, you might be reporting it to the child's parent. Maybe the school is named after their great-grandparents. Might not do anything about it, but I would at least want a written record that this did happen. I would take a picture of the document that I submit, or if you do it electronically, you'll have a record of it. But I would at least want that documented. Maybe they'll include that in his permanent record moving forward for that sort of conduct. At minimum, maybe they can address it so that he can maybe just say that in his head and mumble it on the back of the bus, and is not so emboldened to have everyone just beat it, McNigra, and all sorts of racist insults. The school year just started. Like, who's trying to hear that until June? With the pick now, the accusation, that's what I expect really when he was talking about sleeping in the car. My first thought was, is that a violation of policy and procedure? Like, if you're on your break, as opposed to eating lunch or talking on the phone or flirting with white women, to just go out to your personal vehicle without the weed whacker and catch a nap, like, is that a violation of policy and procedure? I would, if it is, oh man, I'll make sure not to nap, even though he said he wasn't napping in the car. But that was my first thought, like, because I've worked at a public school where white staff said, I'm going to go sleep in my car during the lunch break. I heard that a number of times and they said it like with pride. I'm going to go catch me a quick power nap and be charged for the rest of the day. I never heard anyone say that is in violation of policy and procedure. You cannot go sleep in your personal vehicle on school property or in the parking lot, or it's just a bad look, or we don't like that. Looks like you're a drug addict or something. I never heard that. If it is, hey, abide by policy and procedure. Then we get, if it's not a violation of policy and procedure, like, what is going on? Like, why are we going to report non-violations about Leroy? Do we go report other people like Johnny drunk out of the water fountain? Okay. Like I said, we hadn't even got to the part like, was he actually asleep? Just, is this a violation? And then we get to he was not asleep. Why are we lying on him and saying that he was sleeping and stealing the weed? And then we got to go get videos. Now, I'm under the impression that if it's a school, they got school property, the school buses and all that. My thinking would be all of this, because he says it all the time, you got video cameras everywhere anyway. So I would already be thinking I'm on camera. Not that excuses the racist conduct. I got to come out and break out my iPhone. Look at that old lazy Leroy up in here snoozing in the V. Look at him dreaming about white women and chick. What is going on? Like, man, is this acceptable? Because are we allowed to sleep in the car? Yes or no? Then are we allowed to sit in our personal vehicles on our break? Verified he was on his break. He wasn't lying and saying he was out, dropping off children and, he's out gold bricking here, whatever. He's legitimate on his break. That is legitimate, his vehicle. Okay. Like, 'cause if you can be sleep, what? Get out of here. Stop being racist and come on, man. Like, you all are doing a lot with the false accusations and is that policy and procedure? Like, can you use your phone to record other folks? I want to say something too about the baiting. He said that the fella came to bait him for a fight. Anything where it seems like someone is challenging you to some sort of altercation, a duel, that is like automatically a report. And I might even have to report that to the police and telling them that I felt threatened, unsafe, because that might escalate to a restraining order against someone. I mean, what in the world? Like, I would even have to check policy and procedure. Like, wait a minute. They normally got at least some sort of rhetoric, because it goes, that S word, safety. And you all are working with children. So, I mean, really, you can't be threatening. Meet me outside, Leroy. Let me see how tough you are. What? What are you? Right. Say that again, please. Let me, because they got the cameras there, but let me get my phone out. Can you say that again, please? And like, I might have to call the police. Like, are you serious? Challenge to what are you? We are supposed to be, well, you are white. You are grown. I'm a nigger, victim of white supremacy. I'm at least supposed to be pretending that I'm grown, trying to be grown. What? We're going to go brawl, and then what? Even if it works out the best for me, I go out and whip you upside the head. I'm going to get that raise now? Really? Really? And I go outside and whip you good enough, they're going to do what I just said. They're going to Leroy went out there and put the smack down on Brother Timothy, and oh, I saw it all. Nope. Or find out that he secretly been training MMA and was looking for the opportunity to put you in the chokehold. No. None of this was a part of it. I don't remember him tumbling dice telling us part of my plan was counterviolence. Well, I'm going to catch one of these crackers slipping on a job and I never heard that from him. I don't think that should be the goal for any victim of racism in a labor situation. You're just trying to earn money, not have mortal combat with your white colleagues or your non-white colleagues. Because I hear, man, that's not the goal. That's not the goal. And if it was written at, imagine tumbling dice. Pick any white person. You pick the lowest level white person there. Person who cleans the toilets in the basement. Tumbling dice, go and take off his driving gloves. Remember how they do it? He'd take off his driving gloves and smack him in the face 2 times. Look here. I'm tired of you acting crazy. You put that toilet brush down. You meet me outside at high noon and we're going to settle this thing. What? What? Tumbling dice would be police custody. They would have him for legit that we tried to get you for stealing the weed whacker, but we got you this time. We saw you. You went down there and threatened him and what? That is absurd. That would for sure be a report. I might even have to make a police report on that one because that is absurd. Like threatening a colleague, anything that even sounds like what? You're talking about some sort of physical, like, yeah, we go and get, I don't like the cut of your jib and I'm tired of what? System, again, you have to expect, because he said that they try to get you to provoke you. I don't know if he called you names and all that sort of thing, but that to a degree, yes, unfortunately, you should expect all of it. It's so trifling, but it's like, dang, this is supposed to be a professional environment. Like, they work at the school. But he's doing exactly what the little fella is doing. You see the similarity in behavior? He's doing exactly what that little fella that came on the, whatever, McNigra, whatever. Drive the bus, McNigra, and shut up. That's exactly how his dad, and I said that might be his dad, uncle, cousin, grandpa. How do I know? How do you know? Brother, who knows? But it's the exact same behavior. You know, I dare you to, yeah, I called you a McNigra. Do something. Exact same behavior. So expect that in the workplace, whether you work with 8-year-olds or 88-year-olds, if they're classified as white, that's what you expect. You expect to be insulted, all sorts of racism, unprofessionalism, name called, even They might challenge you to a fight, maybe. I mean, or at least try to provoke some sort of emotional response. Certainly, you're going to be accused of something that you didn't do. Certainly, like 1,000 times, maybe all in one day. But you just have to be, prepared. Like the mental health, all of this takes a toll. All of this takes a toll. It's not, I don't use that term microaggression just for this reason. That's not micro. You calling me a McNigger, you challenging me to, what is micro about that? People go to jail for that. Like, man, they have all kinds of cases and things that start, you end up with a brawl, sometimes a shooting. Somebody got called a nigger, and they got that case in Alabama. They still got court proceedings going on to this day, and that happened like a year ago. Nothing micro about that. That is, man, particularly even the health impact of that. That's not micro either. You end up having a heart attack, a stroke. That's not micro either, or even high blood pressure. That's not micro. Medical apartheid, system of white. That, again, that's how you end up having D'Angelo, not with us, age of 51. So take the Friday, hopefully with the weekends, that'll help mitigate a little bit of all of that. But and even the time and energy of that, because for sure, that's 2 reports, the McNigger comment from the bus, and then the challenge, whatever was said, like I won't write it out exactly, date, time. Hopefully they have that on video as well, but I've write a report out as well for that, because that should be totally unacceptable. And they know it would be if you had done a similar act in the world. I mean, no violence at school. Straightforward. Much obliged. Tumbling dice. Man, I take your day tomorrow. Hopefully things will be a little bit better with some time off. You can let us know the update if, let us know the update on that. Woo, and the school year just started. We haven't even got the so-called tacky Halloween yet. Like, Jesus. Number again, 720-716-7300. The code 564943 pound. Press star 61 if you would like to participate. Oh, you mentioned TuneIn as well. The TuneIn feed, I've been looking to switch to a new server, and then I have to update the feed for TuneIn, and that has been a slightly arduous process. I thought I had finished all of that last week, but I failed. It's difficult, challenging, tumbling dice, me doing the best we can, privileged black males. But yes, I did fail to get the server updated, and that's why it's not working. But hopefully that will be corrected shortly before we have our white guest on the program next week. Hopefully that will be resolved. I will update on the air as soon as we have that remedied. But that's why he was having the difficulties on TuneIn. Privileged black male, Gusty adding to the difficulties with difficulty accessing the cows for victims of racism. Obviously, archive's still there. You can still call in. Let's see. Other folks, star 61 if you have commentary. Email untiljustice@gmail.com. Let's see. I will nab email number 2 and then see if other folks have commentary to add. Let's see. Second email. Hi, Gus, Cal's audience. Interesting that you said I had offended right-wing Ashley because Tristan, racist suspect, asked me if there was anything that I may have said that could have offended her. My answer was obviously that I have no idea. That wasn't the first time I heard it. Zoe had told me that right-wing Ashley was claiming that I was asking about her thought process when she decided to do something that was highly inappropriate. Right-wing Ashley is claiming that I was belittling one of her many neurodivergent related conditions. You're nigh on a racist, it sounds like. Zoe shut that nonsense down and put it in writing. But Zoe is on maternity leave, so right-wing Ashley took her claims to racist suspects who are more receptive to her racist accusations. She's so conniving. I previously wrote about being summoned to a meeting with Isabel, who is right-wing Ashley's new manager, and cross-examined about the alleged conflict between me and right-wing Ashley. Isabel emailed a summary of our discussion after the meeting, but her note didn't include anything about right-wing Ashley's claims, Isabel's minimization of right-wing Ashley's underperformance, and basically putting me in my Negro place. Nor did she include anything that I had said in response to those accusations or asking for clarification on what I am being accused of. So, I replied, summarizing exactly what had been said. That was in August. She still hasn't acknowledged my email. See, they like to do that sort of, I'm going to tell you and you don't know. And then don't even, same thing when we had our victim previously who responded who wrote in via email or text. And he said, if I didn't do something correctly, what have you, talk to me in person, just don't text, much obliged. And then they never even respond. Let's see. The meeting I had with Phoebe was in July. At that meeting, she informed me that she knows about my rocky relationship with right-wing Ashley, which is their racist attempt at erasing her underperformance and accusing me of mistreating her. I emailed my concerns after the meeting and copied Zoe, who was still right-wing Ashley's manager at the time and about to go on maternity leave. I referenced her experiences with right-wing Ashley's inability to take feedback and her underperformance. I wrote that I was concerned the issue is now being reframed as a relationship breakdown between me and right-wing Ashley, and that her false accusations are unacceptable. See? False, you just gonna have to deal with that one. Like, already get it in mind. Neither Phoebe nor Zoe responded. Same code on there too. The email was to Phoebe, who was Zoe's manager at the time. So I'm sure Zoe had an inkling of the racist shenanigans afoot. I wasn't expecting her to intervene and didn't care either way. But the fact that Phoebe and Isabel didn't acknowledge my emails was telling. If they were not practicing racism, they would have replied as a minimum, acknowledge receipt of my email. The important point was that I replied and set out exactly what was discussed. I took leave mid-August, and Tristan was also on leave at the time. I wrote to him setting out my concerns about the false allegations, the actions of Phoebe and Isabel, the fact that they have taken her word without requiring any evidence, and that I'm being treated as if I'm guilty of whatever it is that right-wing Ashley is claiming I have done, because no one has exactly told me what her actual claims are, other than you being Negro. I raised the fact that underperformance is now being reframed as a relationship breakdown, despite 3 managers, Shauna, Zoe, and I, being in agreement about right-wing Ashley's behaviors and underperformance. Tristan was already aware of right-wing Ashley's claims because he also raised the matter with me early in July. This was after the meeting when she claimed I came for her. He didn't say much, but didn't ask me to be honest and say I liked her or not. What does this have to do with like? What? I'm so confused. I just don't, what does this have to do with like? Now for real, I don't particularly like anybody here. I didn't think that was, part of the job description. It's just getting work done, period. But yeah, what does this have to do with like? Even, what do you mean like? Because Fuller has that in the word guide. Oh, that's so many. What do you mean like? And what does this have to do with like? Like. Continuing. I felt uneasy about the question. Me too, but actually gave him the benefit of the doubt. Silly me. Obviously, I didn't tell him I liked or disliked right-wing Ashley. My response was that I'm just focused on the work, and so long as she does what is expected, that's fine with me. That was the day he told me things could get nasty. What does that mean? I'm even more confused. You had me lost at like, and now get nasty. Why would it get nasty? And what do you mean get nasty? Woo. Y'all are killing me, literally. He also asked if I had evidence of my interactions with right-wing Ashley. That I found curious. Hopefully I would have lots of email correspondence of what has been requested, and it's all business. Clearly at this point, right-wing Ashley was making some serious accusation, but even then, no one was really giving me detail. I wasn't overly concerned, given that Zoe had already dismissed her claims that I allegedly came for her. And see, again, what does that mean? At that time, he actually listened to what I said and agreed that I could get someone else to support me on the project who has the right level of experience. Then Phoebe started meddling. More to report next week. Now with this one, this is where I can see the importance of Fuller, where he says sometimes it's great to have a witness. Just that way, we have an independent record of what was said. Because there's so much rhetoric, and racists, they thrive. That's why the proverb, it is the beginning of knowledge to call things by their proper name. That's why for years I've talked about the rhetoric and metaphors and figures of speech, that all of that aids the system of white supremacy racism. White people can really, they are master deceivers, and they can really be quite destructive when there's a lot of vagueness and a lack of clarity, precision with words, and just like. So if you have the word God, you should, because I mean, it's like, it's more than a page. Just his usage of the word like and his great caution and reservation around that word. And why even don't use, unless you mean something is similar. But I mean, if you mean favorable or displeased, nah. And what do you mean like? That everyone in a workplace context, that should be peculiar. I really like Ted. Like, what do you mean? What are you talking about in a workplace context? What do you mean? Unless they came back, I really like Ted. We're able to get so much work done so quickly. Oh, I would like Ted too. We can get the heck out of here 30 minutes early. Woo! I really like Ted. If that's what we're talking about. But I mean, beyond, what are you talking about? Came for me. Rhetoric. What are you talking about? Because they didn't say she was nasty, she was unprofessional, she was discourteous, she cursed at me, I felt threatened and unsafe. That's, wow, okay, we can, when did I do that? What did I do? But she came for me. What? What? What does that? And then everyone, oh yeah, you came for her, didn't you? Mm-hmm. Like, what? What? Be precise, man. Words are important in the workplace, and even being a habit when they're using terms like that, because you're not asking as though you have an army behind you. You're really asking just, hey, I'm trying to learn so that I can better understand what's being said and solve problems. Really, what do you mean when you say like? So that I can, have that down. I generally don't use that term in a workplace context, but what do you mean when you say like? Especially if I'm being accused. Like, yeah, do you like Ashley? What do you mean like? I mean, woo, unless we're talking, like I said, tomatoes, or I like working with Ted. We get out of here quickly. No, I don't like tomatoes. Unless it's something like that. No. Beyond that, like, you have really lost me. What are we talking about? Let's get that. And then we can move forward in a sensible, logical manner. But we got all this. We still haven't even got the allegation. They're at least supposed to do that in court. They're not that vague about it when they're getting ready to charge Leroy that you raped Matilda. They don't bring you in and we're going to figure out something, because you came for somebody. So we're going to figure out what you did. You're not going to like it when we figure it out. Like, they don't do it that way. Tell me what I did. I'm supposed to be accurately charged, and then I can respond appropriately. Like, what am I being accused? Am I being accused of not liking Ashley? What? Do what? What does that mean? Come on. Anyway, the email, untiljustice@gmail.com. See what I mean? This would be mental health too. All the false accusations, and you can't even tell me what the charge is. Am I being accused? I stole her lunch money. I snitched on her. I cursed at her. I said something nasty about her clothing. I guess they did say that you teased me about my neurodivergence. What? Wait a minute. Give me exactly. It can't be that I said the idea is not feasible. It might be a violation of policy and procedure. See, you teasing my neurodivergence. What? Pointing out potential violations of policy and procedure is being racist against your neurodivergence? Come on. And you see, you can get almost all of the white people, it seems, you can get them to rally. That nigger woman did something to good old Ashley. We love Ashley. She thinks a little different, but we appreciate diversity. Don't you? See, they love to rally to the white victim, and they know this fool. And again, you probably got some cronyism and nepotism here too. That's probably somebody's niece, in-law, sister, daughter, granddaughter. How did you get this job? How did you keep this? You don't even do anything. Oh, they don't like you. They're related to. Oh, okay. I got you. Yeah. I got it. Anyway, much obliged. The email untiljustice@gmail.com. The number 720-716-7300. The code 564943 pound. Press star 61 if you would like to participate. We'll get folks, see if we have folks who have offspring, young people. Do we have folks who have, I don't know, black, maybe late teens, black 20-year-olds, recent college grads going out into the workforce? Are they grousing about AI and the difficulty of getting hired or getting a job in their field? Yeah, that is. Or do we have those folks, period? Either or. Man, let us know. What is the labor outlook? How is it looking? Or folks impacted by the shutdown? Either or. Let us know. We should be here Friday. Second installment, Evelyn Williams, Inadmissible Evidence. She is the aunt of Assata Shakur, who recently transitioned. We read Assata's biography way back when, but Inadmissible Evidence has a lot more information about Assata, the family history, and then Evelyn Williams ended up being the one of the attorneys for Assata. So it gives a lot more information about her case and eventual prison escape to Cuba. So just started that last week. And obvious, or I guess I shouldn't say obvious, but for those who have not read, it has lots of information about COINTELPRO as well, the government's spy program for black people. But we will be on installment 2 tomorrow. Looking forward to picking up on chapter 3, a little bit of North Carolina and New Jersey history. In the text, family is rooted in North Carolina, and then they migrate north to escape racism, and end up victim in New Jersey, end up in the New Jersey area. The cop shooting happened in New Jersey. She was in prison in New Jersey, so a lot of this is New Jersey history as well. But same time, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific on Friday, and then the compensatory call-in Saturday. We'll catch up on news and events from the past week. And then we should have white guests coming for next week. Hopefully we'll have our tune in back up and rolling by the top of the week. Any hoodles, let us know if you all have thoughts with regards to labor. We'll give folks like another 5 or so. They have observations, codification, figured out some strategies that work to get a promotion, raise, keep you from getting fired. Definitely share. I would say again, during this time period, right, even if you have a federal job, if you worked at the CDC, if you worked at the Department of Education, you worked at the post office, I would not discuss any politics in the workplace. Now, for those specific jobs, I would ask about my specific employment. Are we going to have a job? Are we going to get paid? Are we going to get furloughed? It would be very specific questions, not an op-ed on my thoughts on who is to blame for the shutdown. Why is this going on? Why can't they get it? None of that. Just, what are we doing to mitigate all of this? If this continues to next month, then what? Those would be the type of questions that I would want answered, and from the people who, have accurate answers to those questions. That's what I would want to talk about, not just, boy, it's that Trump's fault. Boy, it's that Democrat. Boy, it's Obama's fault. That. I'm not talking about any of that. If white people talk about any of that around me, the maximum they would get, and then I put that in the journal for the day. But yeah, I'm not talking about any of that in the workplace, and being frugal, indirectly impacted by the shutdown and what have you. Man, not wasting those nickels, which is a habit we should have anyway. That was a habit. In fact, we read in the book last week where Evelyn Williams, she was talking about her parents being really, really frugal, that they grew up kind of in the Depression era and not having adequate income and having children, no less, doing all that to take care of. And just, oh man, they saved and didn't drink liquor, but they saved and scrimped and saved. Didn't just go out and do wild, reckless spending. So they developed a savings habit that they passed on to their offspring. Brilliant. We need more of that. And really, throughout the system of white supremacy racism, because even when the shutdown is over, presumably at some point all this will come to an end, once they get back rolling, in terms of firing niggers, that's every day in the system of white supremacy racism all around the world. Not hiring niggers and all the rest, falsely accusing niggers, all of that's every day in the system of white supremacy racism. So even once the shutdown concludes, not a whole lot has changed with regards to it. You can be fired in the next 5 minutes. So, develop quality habits, I guess, for the system. Dr. Welsing was fired. I mean, Dr. Welsing was fired. Anyway, and if Fuller were at the Department of Printing and Bureau of Printing and Engraving, he might be furloughed too. Should have asked him that. Did he remember any shutdowns during his decades of being a federal employee? Did he have any shutdowns where, he didn't get paid and he didn't get a paycheck, anything of that nature? Should have asked him that one. Any hoodles. Let's see. Other folks who dialed in with a hand up, you have commentary to share. Proceed. Our caller in Florida should be with us.
Yes, sir. May I be heard?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Greetings to Gus, the host, the listeners and callers.
Muted.
Speaking of the metaphors and the analogies, the suspected racist person in charge wrote another I guess like a like a parable or something. I wanted to share that. It was on the recent newsletter, and because I think it came from a meeting they had in the conference room with the managers and whatnot. So the behaviors from a lot of the white people, and I know I've spoken on this before, they have been changing a lot more now. I think the most that I've seen it, like even with the security, sheriff, bailiffs, like one of them, I think it's tacky where he's playing like R&B music, you know, and music of black artists, Usher and stuff like that. And I hadn't noticed that about him before. He'll usually ignore greeting the black staff members that come through the entrance into the back of the courthouse. So I've noticed that pattern with him, and it seemed like it's just not really that genuine, if I could use that term. Like it's been more so coerced. So it was a meeting that happened at least like 2 weeks ago, like I mentioned, and I think it may have stemmed from that. So this was released on a Friday. I think at the end of the last Friday in September. So he writes, it says, when you plant a bamboo seed, nothing seems to happen for years. You water it, nurture it, and care for it for up to 5 years with no visible growth above the ground. Then, seemingly overnight, the bamboo shoots up more than 60 feet in just a couple of weeks. What happened in those quiet years? The bamboo was growing a strong root system, laying the foundation to support rapid growth when the time was right. And then he says, this story reminds us that progress isn't always immediately visible. The work we put in today, whether building relationships, developing skills, or strengthening our team, may take time to show results. But when it does, growth can be extraordinary. Just like the bamboo, we can approach our tasks and goals with patience, persistence, and faith in the unseen progress happening beneath the surface. Every effort you make, whether it's a small improvement, a kind word to a colleague, or an extra step toward quality work, adds to the strong foundation that will support future success. So that was what he wrote on the September newsletter. And I'd like to share two other observations. I had a birthday last week, so it was my birthday and a white woman's birthday was right next to each other, the 7th and the 8th. So I came in on the birthday. I came into work, and I already told them that, you know, I don't really do no participating in anything like that. So half of the day goes by, and 3 white women, one sent an email saying happy birthday or whatever. So I just responded saying thank you. Like over half the day is gone, like 6 hours have gone by. And a second white woman says happy birthday. And I just said the same thing to her. And then the third one kind of like whispers it, saying, oh, you know, I hear it's a special day today. I mean, oh, you mean, you know, a birthday or whatever? And then she holds her hands up to her mouth and kind of whispers it. So that indicated to me that some obvious gossiping went on right there. And the next day, the white woman birthday was on the 8th, October the 8th. So she was wearing a crown, all right, like a literal crown or whatever. So she's walking through, and another white woman, one of the same white women, said, "Happy birthday, princess." And she responded, "No, call me queen," or whatever. And the other white woman didn't really say much. So that was a comparison I wanted to show, because I don't, like I said before, I ain't really, really engaged in that with them. But I think something came from that meeting that happened a couple of weeks ago. And one last thing I like to share, Gus, is there was a black male that I was taking a photograph of, and I like to try to pay attention to these photograph incidents, taking pictures of the passport customers. So I was taking a photograph of a black male, and I took 2 pictures, and a non-white person was seated next to us filling out her application for a passport. And she says, "I don't think that's going to work, because see, he was smiling. I didn't say anything about, you can smile or not. Sometimes customers will just smile, and I'll just take the photo." So she, after seeing him smile, was like, I don't think that's gonna work for him. I'm like, huh? And like, what do you mean? Well, he's not supposed to be smiling. And I said, where do you get your picture taken at? Was somebody here? Did somebody here tell you that? And she was like, well, no, I got my picture taken at Walgreens or something, or somewhere other than the courthouse. So she said, I just didn't think that that would work for him, and we don't even know who this person is. So I said, I'm just going to take this picture. But then he ended up deciding that he just wanted to just take another photo, and he ended up just having just a regular plain look. And a lot of people want to use this word mugshot, by the way, but I noticed that it's mainly applied to black males mostly. So I just say, well, you're just looking straight ahead at the camera. I use the term natural relaxation because, that's his facial expression. I didn't add to saying that, he looked like a person taking a mugshot. I just wanted to just use another word. So he ended up going to the counter, and he ended up getting to use a photo where he did want to smile. But I wanted to share that because that person didn't have anything to do with taking the photo, and they just wanted to just volunteer just so easily to a black male to just tell him how he should look, and just sitting there on a stool and smiling was a problem to whoever this person was, this customer. And other than that, that's all I have to share. Thanks for allowing me to speak.
Unmuted.
That's your privileged black male in Florida. Right on. Did you tell us before that there was a white woman who worked in the civil area, and she had some sort of accoutrement on her desk? It was like queen or something, and you actually pointed it out, and she said, oh yeah, the people that I used to work with, they gave me this, and that made her kind of self-conscious about it, because you said she took it down from her desk. Am I making that up?
That does sound familiar. Yes, sir. I think this is that same person.
Oh. Okay.
The same one. The same person.
Okay. I just want to see if I'm lying or okay, right on. With the passports, I reckon, have you I might be lying, so you keep me straight. Have you told us it tends to be the little fella when they have the children come up for the passport photos, and they say, "Oh man, wait a minute now, you got to smile. You can't look like no rapist." Now they said, now when the other little children come up, if they're white or whatever, they don't do all that. They can smile, not smile. It's not a big deal, but oh man, when you get Leroy up there and little Leroy Jr. doesn't want to smile, whoa. You got to show you, wait a minute now, you can't look like no terrorist mugshot. Have you told us that one before with the little people getting the passport photos?
Yes, sir. Leroy Jr. Yes, sir. Because it was some coworkers I work with, they tend to try to get the black male child a lot of the time to smile, but it's not mandatory. So I've just said you're able to smile if you like. You don't have to. So they'll choose to smile or not. Usually the parent will ask them to smile, but it is usually mainly toward the black children, mostly the black male children. And now the little white girl, 2 or 3 weeks ago, I said, you're able to smile. Do you want to smile? She was like, no, I don't want to smile. Just like what you just said. She said that, and I looked over to my coworker, and she didn't want to say anything about this little white girl. Okay, and then the white mom and the white dad, they just kind of laughed at it. But it's an interesting observation. When it's the black child, they don't really do any laughing or anything. They just say, well, you should try to smile. Or, I don't want to see where you'll get in trouble. But I'm like, this is a passport. This don't have nothing to do with no criminal act. But those kind of connotations or associations will be put on Leroy Jr.
Now come on now, Becky. You don't want to look like no Mary Kay Letourneau. Now come on and smile. They think you Susan Smith or something. Come on now. Come on. They don't do all that. I don't want to smile. Thank you. Just take the picture. Dang. All right. And yes, ma'am. We go take the picture. Fascinating. Let's see. He said, now I've said this for years. I've said this. I advocate no music in the workplace. If it's got to be, it should be something where we're not going to be singing the lyrics and such, classical music, something like that. Easy listening type stuff. Nothing, I don't want to hear no mystical, no R&B, no Usher, none of that. I've said that for years. All of that is going to be an excuse for some white people to be tacky and racist. They'll be hopefully one of those songs will have nigger in it, so they can just say, I was just singing the lyrics. You heard Buster and he say, that's nigger culture, you know what I'm saying? Or it will just be, I told you they do all that slang, and they got a fist bump when they see you and chant, hey, do you know how to do the dance? We are supposed to be at work. And exactly what he said. It is so tacky. We are, and they're at the courthouse, no less. Come on. None of this is appropriate, regardless of what area. Let's be professional. The gnomes aren't appropriate either. Let's be professional and just get our work done. Serve the customers, keep everybody safe. Get our work done. Not, what are we playing all this nonsense in the courthouse for? Like I said, and then it'll variably have some profanity in some of it or whatever. All of it is just a recipe. And then people will even use that when they come and say something crude and racist. They say, oh, we listen to that all the time. I didn't even think it was, we joke around all the time. I'm no fan of the music in it. He said tacky and unprofessional. That's, the parable about the bamboo in the newsletter. I have no idea how that applies in the courthouse context. He was talking about investing in people for the same sort of development. What is going on?
And then they wait to get wacky in the newsletter, the birthday. He did his best to try to cut it at the knees with the birthdays in the workplace, but it doesn't get any better than tacky. And the same thing, they have all of your information. When you go to apply for a job, you have to fill out an application and all that. Even if you have AI HR, you generally, have to put like an address, date of birth, social security number. All that stuff is pretty standard. So they have your date of birth. Even if you don't want to tell them, they can just go, look, Leroy's got a, they can do that at the beginning of the year and just make a whole, I think they do that in some workplaces. Just go through the personnel file and get everybody's birth date so they can make a whole calendar and just that. We don't even need you to tell us nothing, Leroy. We already got we know about our niggers. And he said he already told them, like, nah, I'm cool. I don't want to do no birthday stuff. Like, I'm not 5. I don't need a cupcake. Let's just get some work done, get through. And then, shut up, Leroy. We got to come to happy birthday, Leroy. Okay. And they just coming in. That's another one that doesn't get any better than tacky. All day long, tacky. Even the insistence, like, come on. I already said this, like, I don't want to participate. We don't even, like, let's just get through the day. Can I get a raise if we got to do all this and you all that? Let's get a raise. How about that? We can't get a raise. Can't get no PTO hours. We can't. He said the white woman that I thought I had heard of before came in with a crown on. Oh my God. I said, are we 5? And she said, oh, happy birthday. Call me princess. Oh my Lord. I would call her princess for the rest of the time that she worked there. That's exactly what I had in my brain. Fuller said is a royalist system where all of the white people, they get to keep kings, queens, dukes, earls, princes, princesses, and she gonna wear a crown. Probably got a brand new tiara just for her. Brand. That's what I mean. Like, there's something you are not 12, 10. What in the world? Like, come on, man. But no problem. You will be princess for the rest of the time we work here. No problem. Even you going on 65. Fine. Princess. What does it mean to be? Now, if you are the princess, what are we? Are we the paupers? The jesters? Like, that's how she thinks? Because she said that's what you're supposed to call me. Princess. The servants. Bow down, peasant. Like, man, that's what that. Oh, we in the segregated. That's right. Yeah. Well, maybe we tell some jokes. At least we'd be jester and we'll get better food, maybe. And that's about, the thinking. That's how those office situations, that's how they operate, We see if we can be the jester and, maybe we don't get a pink slip and they feed us to the lions, That's about how it operates. She would be princess for the rest of the time that we work there, though. Like, that is, woo, man. And then we got the black belt. That also is then, see, you see the same white female domination. I don't know if the young lady in the passport line had a crown on or not, but maybe she didn't need it. I thought they were together at first. Like, I don't know if I was thinking tragic arrangement or what, but this is a total string. For all you know, this could be raping Leroy. This is the worst Negro male in the history of Florida. I mean, make Ted Bundy seem like a babysitter. I go around and rape white women all day long and take all the money and scare them half to death and leave them on the side of the road. Ooh, the greatest boogie monster ever. And you gonna tell Leroy, hey, boy, you don't smile in the past. Get back here. Hey, that ain't even legal. Get back there and take that again. And you ought to know better, nigga boy. You don't let him take a passport photo like that. Get back in there and take a regular photo. Yes, ma'am. And he went back to my what? Like, wait a minute. I'm sorry.
Well, sorry to interrupt, but that was really interesting to me. That it was a random customer, and he he thought that his picture wasn't going to meet the criteria because of what this random lady was saying, that he shouldn't smile like that. That doesn't look right or whatever. She was saying words like that. And I even tried to ask questions, and I asked the question about, did you get that picture taken here? Did they mention that to you here at the courthouse? She said no, it was at Walgreens, and the black guy still wanted to take another picture because he was thinking that, oh my goodness, my picture is not going to go through. So he just easily I guess, went along with it.
White people are in charge, so I can't understand, but like, wow. I mean, just wow. On so many, you don't even work here, man. You don't know Leroy. Like, he might have a straight razor in his back pocket, kill us all. You done ruffled his feathers and upset him about this photo, man. And no. That, you gotta take that again. That ain't gonna work. You didn't smile and mess the whole thing up. Take that again. Okay, let me take that again. Like, what? Wait, what? I'm in charge. Passport line, office, prison, White House, shutdown. I'm in charge. I know he works here. I know he behind it. I'm in charge. He said he tried to explain, like, hey, brother, you what? She didn't even say she worked at Walgreens now. Whatever. Wherever she might be unemployed. Who knows? That's not the rule. That's not the rule, brother. You don't have to take it. I'm going to take it again. Man. And that matches what we heard too, where he said, people come up to the courthouse, they come to his window, and he'll tell them it's 50 cents for the copy. Hell no. That's just you trying to give me some old Negro mumbo. Give me a white person up here, and the white person is 50 cents a copy. Okay. And they're
yes, sir. Yes, sir. Facts.
Woo, man. Black male privilege. Nigh on 2030. Black male privilege. Woo. Man, I'm going to listen to this white woman. Just make sure it ain't going to be no trouble.
Yep.
I can't get up. Oh,
hey, Gus, can I share a quick one?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That reminds me. So there's a new employee in the segregated area. So it was another black person was trying to contest what she was saying to her about a date on a divorce judgment. So I got up to try to confirm that. So now this is a second black person saying to a black customer, say, hey, this is correct. What she was saying, this is the date right here for the finalized divorce. She was just still trying to ask questions like, well, is there anyone else that can let me know something? So I went, I already knew who to go get. It was a white woman across the hallway, the legal counsel. But see, I think it was that she was white. She's classified as white. And she just told her in a few sentences, and the lady didn't question her. She didn't contest what she was saying. She didn't challenge nothing. She just says, okay, well, thank you very much, ma'am. And then she walked out of the door. That was another, and this was a new person, and she's like 21 years old, and she, I think, knew and understood what happened. Like, oh, well, she just didn't want to accept what I was saying. She just wanted to hear it from somebody white, but she didn't directly say that. But she could tell that she wanted, like, hey, I had already said this. You didn't listen to me. I said that same thing. So that mainly happens to black employees.
Black and that's two court employees, two Negro employees. Nap. You just trying to double whammy nigger me. You get me a white person to come. Pile of, I don't care how many nigger employees you all send out here. Give me some. That would be another reason why we do not qualify for mental health. Because I mean, sometimes they grab like a janitor white person, like who has worked there half the time that the black person has, or something. The black person trained the white person that they're going to get to say the exact same thing. And now, oh, it's gospel. Oh, okay, I've heard from Whitey. Beat it, niggers. Okay. Woo. And they just don't say a word. It's no more challenge. They accept it, pay the 50 cents or whatever it is, and move forward with the day. Like, wow. I mean, we do not qualify for mental health for a lot. And it is painful what he said, the young lady, like she didn't even just say like, wow, they just wanted to hear from a white person. Because that is like very deflating to hear. Like, you don't know what type of credentials I have. She didn't know that I'm a new employee. For all you know, I could have worked here for 5 years or what have you, be the employee of the month, parking place right up front, and, you know, perfect. Scored perfect on the entrance exam or whatever qualifications needed. You don't know. It doesn't matter. Beat it, nigger. Now you get two niggers. Two niggers don't equal 50 cents? No. Beat it. Need one white person. One white person. That's another reason why a system of white supremacy has to be replaced immediately. Like, man, I mean, just wow. For lots, because sometimes it is that you have a brilliant black person who gets totally ignored and they're trying to give out correct life-saving information and they get totally ignored. Beat it, nigger. That might be you in a workplace. That's why I said it. It just can't be you're thinking that I'm a competent black person and yeah, there might be a teaspoon of racism in the universe, but I'm competent and smart and I'll show up on time and they'll think I'm brilliant. No. The shutdown can show you that like painfully, but I mean, no, that's just not what this is about at all. In fact, you being competent, that might upset even more white people. Like, we definitely got to get rid of Lakeisha. Leroy might be a threat for my job. I got a cousin or nephew or niece or sister that I want to get a job here, and old smart Leroy mess around and get all of it. No, we got to get rid of them. System of white supremacy, racism, and or you are smart and competent and we just think you're a nigger. Get out of here. We ignore you, and or if you do say anything that's quite smart, we just take credit for it because we're not listening to you anyway. So we just take credit for it. I'll say that I said it and get all the credit, promotions, and we continue to ignore you. Why we have to replace white supremacy with justice immediately. Be here tomorrow, 8 p.m. I think I did get my passport photo at Walgreens. I don't remember if they told me you could smile or not, but I think I did go to Walgreens to get my passport. Well, that is wacky. Like, man, they do offer if you have a drugstore where you live, Walgreens, you can get a passport photo there. That'd be interesting to pay attention to see if they allow you to smile or to no. You got to do the mugshot at the Walgreens. We don't do all that. You take your hind parts to the post office if you got to smile and do all that showing off in the passport photo. Woo, man. We're here mañana. Book club, Asada, or it's not Asada, or it is about Asada. It is about Asada, but it's not written by Asada. Evelyn Williams, Inadmissible Evidence, Session 2. Sobriety would be best, especially heading towards the wacky season. I know with all of the stress and anxiety that most of us are enduring, many will encourage, yes, hit happy hour and get a taste, get a little bit of something, do the, feel a little better. You can commiserate with those of us, sit up here, we'll do a shot together. And hey, I would remind, they even said they're cutting folks, the CDC and some of the folks that used to have jobs maybe there before they were laid off and furloughed, they said, 1 drink per week, not per day, 1 per week max. Anything once you start heading above 1 drink
of alcohol per week. That is carcinogenic. In fact, I say it again. D'Angelo not with us at the age of 51. Aggressive pancreatic cancer. Alcohol would be one thing. We're going to leave that alone. I even remembered we were talking about cannabis. And they said, don't you compare cannabis to alcohol? Or they were encouraging. We should think about cannabis like alcohol. You wouldn't tell anybody if they wanted to go home and have a glass of wine after work. You wouldn't say anything about that, would you? Yes, I would. That ain't no daily habit to have either. Any hoodles, sobriety would be best under conditions of white supremacy. We need high-functioning brain computers to solve our problems. Creator, we ask that you help us, remind us, stop saying not all white people are racist. Remind us, stop name-calling people classified as black. Remind us, stop producing throwaway offspring to be raped by Mary Kay Letourneau and or drowned by Susan Smith, white women, some of them teachers. It has been time. Replace white supremacy with justice immediately. Cal signing out. Thanks all for tuning in.